Elnök úr, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Secretaries General of the EU Parliaments here in the upper chamber hall of our historic Parliament building. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. Allow me to warm-heartedly welcome also the Secretaries General of the Parliaments of the candidate countries. It's our great pleasure to have you here together with all of us. I do hope that your presence will soon be ex officio as those who are coming from EU member states and not only as a special invitee. I also welcome Ms. Despina Chassivasiliou, Secretary General of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, as a special guest to our event. I can inform you that we registered 105 participants for today, which is a very impressive number. The presence of 24 Secretaries General, 8 Deputy Secretaries from the EU Parliaments, as well as representatives from 8 out of the 9 candidate countries' parliament is already a success. Once again, thank you for your interest. First of all, let me highlight some technical details. As to the microphones and the headphones are concerned, both of them can be found in the drawers under your desk. You may ask our colleagues in the room for help to select the language you prefer. During the meeting, there is English, French, Italian, Bulgarian, and Lithuanian interpretation. As per the standing orders of the Hungarian National Assembly, it is not allowed to bring any food or drink inside the plenary hall, but the good news is that coffee and refreshments are continuously available outside on the corridor on this side. After these short technical announcements, let me switch to Hungarian for a second. Részemről a megtiszteltetés, hogy megadjam a szót Kövér László elnök úrnak, hogy pulpitusról mondja el üdvözlő beszédét. Elnök úr, parancsoljon, öné a szó.
Tisztelt Főtitkár, hölgyek és urak! Kedves vendégeink! Isten hozta önöket a Magyarországházban, a világ egyik legszebb parlamenti épületébe, a Magyar Géniusz építészeti megtestesülésébe. Köszöntöm az Európai Unió parlamenti hivatalvezetői és főtitkárai találkozójának minden résztvevőjét. Önök Magyarországra utazva egy olyan országba érkeztek, mely több mint 1000 éve létezik jogfolytonosan, és amely országban napjainkban nem csak a közbiztonság, hanem a jogbiztonság és a politikai stabilitás is az egyik legerősebb Európában. Ebben a házban én rendszerint politikai beszédeket szoktam mondani, de ma két okból kivételt kell, hogy tegyek. Egyrészt azért, mert munkájukból kifolyólag önök eleget hallhatnak ilyen szónoklatokat, másrészt pedig azért, mert munkájuk során önöknek mindig függetleneknek kell maradniuk mindenféle politikai nézettől. Hivatali munkatársaimmal szemben is ez a legfontosabb elvárásom, amelyet ők azzal viszonoztak, hogy évtizedeken és kormányokon átívelő módon szakszerű és lojális munkavégzésükkel a magyar közigazgatás legstabilabb intézményévé emelték az Országgyűlés hivatalát. Uniós házelnök kollégáimnak ezért ugyanazt kívánom, mint ami nekem megadatik, politikai stabilitást a parlamentben és hivatali stabilitást a parlamenti munkaszervezetben. A mai találkozó fő célja, hogy előkészítse a parlamentközi együttműködés legmagasabb szintű fórumát, az Európai Unió parlamenti elnökeinek konferenciáját. Emellett azonban az uniós parlamenti hivatalvezetők találkozója az évek során olyan hasznos fórummá vált, amely lehetőséget nyújt a hivatalokat érintő aktuális közös ügyek és tapasztalatok áttekintésére és közös megoldások megtalálására. Tisztelt résztvevők! A mai találkozó két olyan területet érint, amelyben a parlamenti hivataloknak fontos szerepük van. Az oktatási programok, azaz a demokráciával kapcsolatos ismeretek átadása, valamint az uniós parlamentek együttműködési formái a tagjelölt országok törvényhozásaival. Biztos vagyok benne, hogy értékes tapasztalatokat fognak hallani, folytatva ezzel az elnökségi félévünkben eddig megvalósított 6 konferenciánk sikerét, amelyeken több mint 1000 résztvevőt üdvözölhettünk hazánkban. Magyarország 2024 őszén második alkalommal látta el az Európai Unió Tanácsának elnökségi feladatait egy különleges időszakban. A hatékony és zökkenőmentes magyar elnökség az uniós intézményi ciklusváltás alatt is biztosította az Európai Unió Tanácsa működésének folytonosságát, és egy valóban erős Európa békéért, biztonságáért és jólétért dolgozott. Összhangban a 7 elnökségi prioritásunkkal számos eredményt tudunk felmutatni. Ezek közül is kiemelkedik a budapesti nyilatkozat, ami az Európai Unió versenyképességének erősítéséről szól, de történelmi léptékű eredmény Románia és Bulgária teljes jogú schengeni tagsága is 2025. január 1-től, amely egy több mint 10 éves folyamatot zárt le. A magyar elnökség idején több stratégiai jelentőségű szakpolitikai döntés is született, amelyek felsorolásával nem rabolnám most az önök idejét. Külön említést érdemel ugyanakkor az Európai Unió bővítését előmozdító eredménysor. Magyarország a bővítéspolitikát az Európai Unió stratégiailag egyik legfontosabb politikájának tartja, és elnökségünk célkitűzése az volt, hogy a bővítés objektív, hiteles és érdemalapú folyamat maradjon. A már több mint 20 éve Európai Uniós tagsággal kecsegtetett Nyugat-Balkán tekintetében egy 2,5 éve befagyott folyamatot sikerült újraindítanunk, kiemelten Albániával, Montenegróval és Szerbiával. Az országgyűlés a parlamenti diplomácia eszközeivel politikai és hivatali szinten egyaránt támogatta, és a jövőben is támogatni fogja az Európai Unió bővítési folyamatban résztvevő déli és keleti szomszédait. Ezen országok számos parlamentjével kétoldalú együttműködési megállapodásokat kötöttünk, hivatali szinten pedig az Európai Unió tagállami parlamentjei közül a legtöbb, 18 ikerintézményi és asszisztencia programban vettünk részt. Köszönet az eddigi és a jövőbeni együttműködésért az önök érintett hivatalaival. Tisztelt Főtitkár, hölgyek és urak! Végezetül engedjék meg, hogy röviden utaljak az utolsó parlamentközi eseményünkre, az Európai Unió parlamenti elnökeinek konferenciájára, amelyet 2025. május 11-én és 12-én rendezünk meg ugyanitt. A konferencia középpontjában Európa jövője áll. Az európai nemzeti szuverenitás kérdése a világpolitikában, valamint az európai nemzetek identitása, mint versenyképességi tényező a világgazdaságban. A parlamenti elnököknek szóló meghívót és a programtervezetet még ebben a hónapban megküldjük az érintetteknek. Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim! Bízom benne, hogy a mostani látogatások során marad idejük megtekinteni az országházat is, amely nem csak a magyar állam jelképe, hanem a magyar történelem színes képeskönyve is, amely alapján sok mindent megérthetnek a nemzeti gondolkodásmódunkból. A hely szelleme megkívánja, hogy 2 dolgot különösképpen a figyelmükbe ajánljak, ha megengedik. A kupolacsarnokban megtalálható Szent Korona számunkra, magyarok számára a közhatalom elvont jogi fogalmának olyan szerves történeti és érzelmi megtestesülése, amely az európai államfejlődésben és jogtörténetben gyakorlatilag példátlan módon önálló jogi személyiséggel bír. Országunkban ugyanis 1000 évig csak az uralkodhatott legitim módon, akit ezzel koronáztak meg, azaz nem a királynak volt koronája, hanem a nemzetet és az alkotmányos folytonosságot jogilag is megtestesítő koronának volt királya. Ez a közösségi felhatalmazás igényének egyik legkorábbi európai megfogalmazódása, és egyben az egyik legfőbb magyarázata, tisztelt vendégeink, hogy mi magyarok miért nem kedveljük, amikor kioktatnak bennünket a jog uralmáról. A másik, amit figyelmükbe szeretnék ajánlani, hogy 1956. november 4-én Bibó István államminiszter ezen ház falai között gépelte magányosan a magyar nemzet segélykiáltását az Egyesült Nemzetek Szervezetéhez és a világ közvéleményéhez. Mint tudják, ez akkor volt, amikor a Szovjetunió több harckocsival támadt Magyarországra, mint 1939-ben Hitler Lengyelországra, a hivatalos nyugati politika közönyétől kísérten vérbe folytva antikommunista forradalmunkat és szabadságharcunkat. Azóta, tisztelt vendégeink, mi magyarok azt sem szeretjük nagyon, ha bárki kioktat bennünket a szolidaritás vagy a háború és béke kérdéseiről. Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim, bízva abban, hogy mai konferenciájuk eredményes lesz, kívánom, hogy érezzék jól magukat Budapesten. Tisztelettel várjuk az Önök parlamenti elnökeit a házfalai közé a májusi találkozónkon, miként Önöket is szeretettel látjuk viszont a jövőben is bármely alkalomból. Köszönöm a figyelmüket, hasznos tanácskozást, érezzék jól magukat!
Köszönöm, elnök úr, nyitó gondolatait. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your opening thoughts. Now I present the draft program of our meeting, which you have already seen and which was approved by the Troika at yesterday's meeting. In the first session, I will present the draft program on the Conference of the Speakers of the European Parliament. This draft was distributed electronically yesterday after the Troika meeting and is also available in printed form in the desk at the entrance of the plenary hall. Our second session will focus on education on democracy and citizen education programs in the parliaments, in which Mr. Alessandro Chiocchetti, Secretary General of the European Parliament, and Mr. Harald Dossi, Secretary General of the Parliament of Austria, will share their introductory remarks after my presentation. After the coffee break, we will discuss the cooperation of the EU parliaments with the parliaments of the candidate countries. In this session, Mr. Péter Sárdi, Director of Foreign Relations of our office, Mr. Srdjan Smiljanic, Secretary General of the National Assembly of Serbia, and Mr. Jonathan Murphy, Head of the Inter-Pares program, will deliver their keynote speeches. In session 4 is on information exchange between parliaments, so the IPEX-related issues will be on the table. And finally, we also dedicated some time for other issues at the end of the conference. Before starting our agenda, a few more technical details related to the request for the floor. We already have registered 4 requests from the delegations before the conference. I raise your attention that certainly you can submit further requests at the registration desk situated in the center of the chamber. Done here by filling out a request form over there. The available speaking time will be only 2.5 minutes, and I kindly ask you to stick to this time limit to be able to keep our schedule. When your time is up, I will use this bell to politely make a signal. After the bell, the microphone will automatically switch off in a matter of seconds. So it's not going to be me who will switch it off. Participants are asked to make their interventions from their seat by standing up and by using the small clip microphone and from your drawer. The mic will only work from your allocated seat, so please make your intervention from there, and please do not change your seat. There is no need to press any buttons, since the microphones will activate automatically along the order of the speakers, which you can see on the screens during the exchange of views. Following the practice so far in our conferences, the first speaker to receive the floor are members of the Presidential Troika on this event, and then the list of speakers is constructed based on the order of the registration. Now, finally, let us turn to our first agenda for today, the presentation of the draft program of the Conference of Speakers of the EU Parliaments. Allow me to inform you that yesterday our Troika had consensus on the draft program, which our permanent representative forwarded to his Perm Rep colleagues, and the printed version on this draft can also be picked up from the desk at the entrance. The Hungarian National Assembly will organize this conference in Budapest on 11th and 12th of May this year. The conference will start with a cultural program and a dinner on Sunday, 11th of May, hosted by Mr. László Kövér, Speaker of the Hungarian National Assembly. On Monday, 12th of May, the conference will start at 9 a.m. and take place in this plenary hall where we are now in the upper chamber hall of the Hungarian Parliament. This annual meeting provides an important platform for discussing current issues in the European Union and beyond. In the spirit of this, we will dedicate the whole conference to one fundamental topic, the future of Europe. Besides this general topic and challenges facing Europe, the conference will have two thematic sessions. The first will be dedicated to the future of the European Union, federalism or national sovereignty. The conference is planned to start with the introductory remarks of Mr. Viktor Orbán, Prime Minister of Hungary, who will deliver his thoughts on the general topic. Then the first session will start with the opening speech of our speaker, Mr. László Kövér. Afterwards, Mr. Speaker Kövér plans to kindly invite his following partners to become the keynote speakers. The President of the National Council of Austria, Mr. Walter Rosenkranz, Monsieur Gérard Larcher, President of the Senate of France, the President of the European Parliament, Ms. Roberta Metsola. The second session will focus on getting closer to the voters, regionalism in Europe, and safeguarding Europe's cultural identity. In this session, Mr. László Kövér plans to ask the following members to accept his invitation to become a keynote speaker. The President of the Chamber of Deputies of Italy, Mr. Lorenzo Fontana, the Speaker of the National Assembly of Serbia, Ms. Anna Brnabić, the President of the National Council of Switzerland, Ms. Maja Riniker. With regard to this list of planned keynote speakers, thank you for confirmation already received. Finally, the closing session will be dedicated to the adoption of the conclusions. The invitation letters for the Speakers' Conference will be sent shortly after our meeting. The registration platform will open on 1st of March. The deadline for the registration will be 10th of April. Delegations are kindly requested to make their hotel reservation at one of our 6 contracted hotels. All the necessary information will be communicated in a practical information note. Now I await your comments regarding to the programs, and I give the floor to our first speaker from the list, who is Alessandro Chiocchetti, who unfortunately won't be able to attend our meeting personally, but hopefully you can hear us, Alessandro, online. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for your invitation, dear Georgi, to the Hungarian presidency for inviting me to deliver these introductory remarks on these very important topics. Thank you also for allowing me to connect remotely. As you know, this week, unfortunately, we have the session in Strasbourg, and it's also the day where we have our bureau. And without me, without the Secretary General, the bureau cannot take place. So it was impossible basically to find a plane this morning from Budapest to Strasbourg, and this is why I had to be connected remotely. As I say all the time, I feel very much among colleagues in these meetings because only you can understand my problems as Secretary General. I mean, our work is a very peculiar one, and is a very difficult one, and that's why when I can share with you, I some kind of feel, let's say, among people who can understand me. So first, we all face increasingly complex political dynamics. We operate in a rapidly changing environment that asks us to adapt constantly to new technological developments. And this is why these debates and these exchanges of best practices among us have, in my view, a huge benefit. And the topic of this morning's session is a reminder of the challenges posed to all parliaments of growing political skepticism and waning civic engagement. The question of democracy and the question of education to democracy is therefore very timely. So democracy, of course, is not merely transmitted through laws and institutions. it is lived, it is learned, and built day by day, especially among younger generations. And this, in my view, is fundamental, because this mission falls to parliaments, not only as legislative bodies, but also as places of learning and transmission of democratic values. It is, therefore, I think, our collective responsibility to ensure that every citizen, especially every young person, can understand and appreciate and fully exercise their democratic rights. In my introductory remarks today, I will focus on 3 areas of activities in the European Parliament. First, our educational programs. Second, our visitor strategy. And third, our interactive and digital engagement programs. Concerning the European Parliament's educational programs, we have, as European Parliament, several initiatives to promote education in democracy, aiming to raise young citizen awareness of parliamentary democracy and encourage their active participation in democratic process. We have, first of all, the Back to School program, which invites EU officials to return to their schools.
Sorry, Secretary General. Sorry to interrupt you, but now the agenda is only the agenda of the Speakers' Conference, and afterwards we will turn to the education of democracy. So, if you don't mind, if you don't have any more comments on concerning the EU conference, then we will give back the floor to you after this agenda.
Excuse
okay.
me, Georgi. Then on this, I will only say that we are perfectly fine with the agenda that you propose.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Secretary General. And now the floor is Fabrizio Castaldi from Italy.
Dear colleagues, I would like to thank the Director General of the Hungarian Assembly for the perfect organization of this meeting and for the hospitality. I appreciate that the agenda of the next Speakers' Conference focuses on crucial issues in the debate on the future of the European integration process. I would like to confirm that the President of the Italian Chamber of Deputies, Mr. Lorenzo Fontana, is pleased and thankful to be one of the keynote speakers in session 2. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fabrizio. Our next speaker is Jiří Krbec from Czechia.
Well, good morning. I thought I would have a question about a possible female presidents and speakers meeting, but since the program was circulated yesterday, the question has already been answered. So just let me convey my greetings from my Secretary General, who is sorry not to be here because he's accompanying the Senate President during this official visit to Japan. So all the best to Hungarian presidency and thank you.
You mean? Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Ingvar Mattsson, Secretary General of the Swedish Parliament.
Thank you very much, and I agree with previous speakers that thank you very much for arranging this conference for us in such beautiful venues. And thank you very much for arranging a very nice dinner last night. When it comes to the program, we all know that the role of our speakers differs depending on our constitutions. In the Swedish constitution, the speaker is supposed to be politically neutral, which means that he is not supposed to take part or intervene with policy statements in issues that might be controversial in Sweden. That's why he, at many occasions, have proposed that the conferences focus on exchange of experiences when it comes to the role of the speaker in the parliament and how the parliament works. We would, of course, I have not been able, though, to confer with him before because the program was sent out such late time, but I'm sure he would have appreciated if it on the agenda also was room for such discussions. Then I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting program nevertheless, and I'm quite sure that all the speakers will appreciate if during the conference there will be ability for swift exchanges, not only long speeches in a long row after each other. So if possible, when you plan for the conference, make it possible to find a forum where you make it possible to make the discussion more swift and more to the point, perhaps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Our next speaker is Silke Albin, Deputy Secretary General of the German Bundestag. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me take the opportunity to also thank you very much for the organization of this conference and the unique location where it takes place today, and also for the program you proposed. Allow me one comment to the session 1 topic, and it maybe has something to do with my Swedish colleague and his intervention. It's generally a very good topic, and we have been dealing with the future of Europe several times on this conference already. But there are only 2 scenarios from federalism or national sovereignty, and maybe this could be an unnecessary and very political restriction. Maybe we could just keep it open and talk about future European Union or the future of the European Union, and delete the alternatives you propose, or maybe say between sovereignty and federalism. So this would be a recommendation from us to keep it more open and to give us the opportunity to discuss about more scenarios concerning the EU. Apart from that, I would also like to support my Czech colleague about the female format. I think this was a very good comment as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And as far as I see, there is no other applicants to take the floor. So we all know that the agenda items of the EU Speaker Conference is always a delicate issue. However, we try to find and put the agenda current topics, and that leave enough room for a wide range of other topics to be included in the discussions. And I understand your concern that it's too narrow, the subtitle of one of the agenda points. So I will forward your remarks and requests regarding to the program to Mr. Speaker Kövér for consideration, and the final draft agenda will be included in the attachment of the invitation letters. So I hereby declare our first session closed. It seems that the Secretary General of the French Senate would like to take the floor. Is it correct? Okay, then please go ahead. Sorry, the translation doesn't work. We're asking my technical guys.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Oui.
Okay, let's give it a try. Okay.
Merci, chers collègues, pour votre accueil tout à fait remarquable et Nous avons été très bien accueillis également hier soir, je tenais à le souligner. J'interviens très brièvement en soutien de l'intervention de nos collègues du Bundestag allemand. J'ai noté donc évidemment, et je vous en remercie, l'invitation qui a été adressée au président du Sénat français, M. Larcher. J'ai d'ores et déjà communiqué à son cabinet votre invitation qui vient d'arriver, qui est toute récente, mais je pense d'autant plus, je viens d'autant plus en soutien aux propositions faites par notre collègue du Bundestag concernant la rédaction du thème du premier sujet. Je pense qu'effectivement, nous ne pouvons pas, ce serait peut-être opportun de ne pas s'enfermer dans une alternative stricte entre fédéralisme et souveraineté, et que nous pouvons tout à fait discuter du futur de l'Union européenne sans préjuger effectivement de deux options qui s'écartent l'une de l'autre. Voilà, c'est ce que je tenais à dire. Merci.
Okay. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Secretary General. And now I declare our first session closed. And let's start the first thematic session of our conference on education, on democracy and citizen education programs in parliaments. And in this agenda point, I thank you for our two keynote speakers, Mr. Alessandro Chiocchetti, Secretary General of the European Parliament, and Mr. Harald Dossi, Secretary General of the Parliament of Austria, for accepting our invitation to deliver introductory presentation in the referred topic. But now, first of all, allow me to grab the opportunity and share with you, distinguished colleagues, the practice of the Hungarian National Assembly on education, on democracy and citizen education program. Hopefully, you can see my presentation, because I don't. In the Hungarian Parliament, we offer roughly 6 different types of activities to different target groups, and in my presentation, I'm going to give you a quick overview on all of them. Let's start with the youngest age group. We organize age-specific visits to the Parliament building to nursery school children. The objective of this is to help them to acquire knowledge through experience, broaden their horizon, establish their national identity, and prepare them for their civic responsibilities. Primarily, we concentrate on showing them the beauty of the building and teaching them concepts such as rules or voting. At the end of the visit, they receive an activity booklet recalling the places visited during the walk. Furthermore, on National Heritage Days, families can sign up for an interactive tour which includes a puppet show where children can meet the character from our storybook series shown in the bottom of the slide. They can also sign up for the next target group is the primary school students, who can choose from various historic topics like the Holy Crown, the medieval or the mid-19th century assemblies. The 1956 massacre took place in front of the Parliament building, and election campaign history. They can also sign up for a 90-minute long classes where they can draw up the constitution of a fictional country based on the Hungarian model. They can form parties and run for a seat in a parliamentary election. And by creating media outlets, they can learn about the different types of the media and the power of the media to shape public opinion. This program is complemented by a guided tour at the end, of which the under 12 age group, just like the nursery school children, leave with an activity booklet as a memory of their visit. Secondary school pupils can sign up for education session on the same topics as their younger fellows. Of course, we consider the age differences, so there are several versions of the same activity. We organize all-day programs, which is unique in a sense that 4 classes take part simultaneously. The so-called Parliament private lesson offers a taste of a daily life in Parliament. The students do not need to prepare in advance, and the program is designed to be enjoyable for everyone. They can meet with an MP, visit to the gallery or in the plenary, and simulate a session and fill in a quiz. The democracy game, on the other hand, involves role-playing the path of a bill from its submission to the final vote. This game requires 3 weeks of preparations on the subject of the bill, during which participants can take time to learn about the views of the party they have been assigned. Parliament private lessons are organized every 2-3 weeks during the school term, and democracy games once a month. Participants of the democracy game already have an in-depth knowledge of the work of the legislation, receive a brochure of the Hungarian National Assembly, shown in the lower right side of the slide. Both of all-day programs for secondary school students are also available to university students with certain adjustments. Plus, we have a field trip to the students from the University of Public Service, in which freshman students can participate in a program similar to the private lesson. The basic concept is that those planning to enter the civil service should visit the Parliament at least once and get useful information on the workings of the legislature. At the end of the program, they return home with a library membership card and a set of our booklets. 3 of these are shown on the slide. For university students, there is a role play called Model Parliament, in where they can submit a bill and proceed it all the way to the final vote. It was created based on the democracy game, with the difference that it gives participants more freedom. The students can decide which party they want to form and with whom they want to cooperate. 6 groups can participate in this activity at one time. These participants also receive a booklet on the Hungarian National Assembly as a gift. In Hungary, teachers are required to complete 120 hours of training every 7 years. We have our own courses where teachers can deepen their history knowledge and can get acquainted with our education methodology. Our training course is accredited by the Hungarian Education Office, so that can be counted towards the above-mentioned training obligation. This is a 4-day theoretical and practical training for primary and secondary school teachers, and a 2-day additional practical training for primary school teachers every spring and autumn. Furthermore, every summer we organize a 4-week-long training series for history teachers. These all cover a historical theme or a historical period. At the end of the training, participants receive related literature in addition to lectures and exercises. Some examples are shown on the slides. Obviously, not everyone can visit Parliament, therefore different materials are also produced for classroom use. These are 6 to 8 minute long animated educational films accompanied by teaching aids and downloadable debate packs to be able to organize a democracy game in the school. These are designed to provide students a guide on a given topic with pros and cons argument lists, which they can process in 5 lessons during a project week that models the legislative process. These materials not only support students learning by playing, but also aim to help teachers by not requiring any preparation on their part. So far, 9 animated films have been produced, 6 on history and 3 on civics issues. The downloadable debates games include 3 debates on history and 5 on contemporary topics like AI, cyberbullying, health, healthy lifestyle, ethical production and consumption, and so on. To sum up, every year thousands of students come for a tour of the building and attend an educational program. Certainly, we must ensure that all the age group receive the knowledge that considers their education level. We currently offer 20 different students' activity programs. We organize 8 kinds of training sessions for teachers. We also produce online materials to support education in the school environment. We have 2 museums, and outside of the building, another 2 exhibitions. The 1,000 years of the Hungarian legislature is perhaps the most exciting out of the 4, as it presents the ancient roots of popular representation in Hungary and the evolution that led to democratic systems. And it is important to notice that all the programs are free of charge. Our Országház, House of Nation Publishing House, is a brand name established for publishing books and other materials. It runs several series in parallel, so in addition to the education books for school children and adults, there are academic volumes for professional audience as well. You can take a look at a small part of our publishing activities at the entrance of the plenary hall, and you can pick and take some of them free of charge. Last year, 1.5 thousand nursery school children, 43,000 students visited this building, and all in all, 10.5 thousand people have participated in our pedagogical programs. Thank you for your attention. And now let me give the floor to Mr. Alessandro Chiocchetti again, who hopefully will be with us soon.
Can you hear me?
Okay. So, Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours on the education, on democracy.
Yes, thank you, Georgi. Sorry about before, but it's difficult to follow from remote, so I started already, but okay, I will come back by saying that I will focus on three main areas of activity in the European Parliament. The first is on educational programs, the second is our visitor strategy, and the third is our interactive and digital engagement programs. So the European Parliament implements several initiatives to promote education in democracy, aiming to raise young citizens' awareness of parliamentary democracy and encourage their active participation in democratic processes. The first way is the Back to School program, where we invite our officials to return to their former secondary schools to share their experience of Europe and debate with students on topics related to the European Union. The second is the European Parliament Ambassador School program, EPAS, which seeks to enable young people, in particular students in secondary and vocational education, to understand their rights as European citizens, to get to know the work and responsibilities of their MEPs, and to see how they can play a part in influencing the political and democratic life of the European Union. The program develops a long-term partnership between schools and European Parliament liaison offices, which we have in all capitals, as well as a sustainable network of teachers as multipliers. Selected schools participate in educational activities such as role plays, quiz, and events like Europe Day. And teachers and students act as senior and junior ambassadors and are encouraged to organize educational actions and collaborate with members of the European Parliament. And I have to say, given the success of this, we decided to scale up the program and asked to increase the number of participating schools up to more than 3,000 by the school year 2026-2027. Thirdly, we have Euroscola, and this program allows students to participate in parliamentary simulation sessions in Strasbourg, where they take on the role of MEPs to debate and negotiate and amend and vote and finally adopt resolutions on real EU issues. So Euroscola brings together students from the age at least of 14 years old, from all 27 member states, from the candidate countries and also former member states, like our friends from the UK. In the school year 2023-2024, the program saw around 18,000 students participate throughout 15 sessions, including 10,000 on site and 8,000 online participants. And predominantly, these were first-time voters. As you know, every 2 years we organize in Strasbourg the I event, is the European Youth Event, which brings together thousands of young people from across the EU and also beyond the EU. It is a unique opportunity for people ranging from 16 to 30 years old to debate directly with members of the European Parliament and other European decision makers and exchange views with experts, activists and content creators. The I 2025, which is the 6th edition of this event, will take place on the 13th and 14th June 2025, offering an interactive and dynamic mix of activities, debates, workshops, visits, artistic performances, and much more, both inside the European Parliament in Strasbourg and around the I-Village. So, concerning the visitors' strategy of the European Parliament. So, our visitor strategy is designed to improve the visitor experience, decentralize outreach, and strengthen collaboration with other institutions. The mission is clear, and it is to raise citizen awareness and engagement with the European Parliament through modern and high-quality communication. What does it mean in practice? It means that citizens are welcome to visit and explore the European Parliament facilities. They can see the hemicycle where debates then take place. They can go to the Parliamentarium, which is an interactive visitor center that brings the European Union to life. And since it opened in 2011, the Parliamentarium in Brussels has welcomed more than 2.4 million visitors, more than 300,000 visitors per year, and I think is the museum or let's say the facility which was most visited in Brussels of all, more than Grand Place. The citizens can also visit the House of European History, which is a museum that tells the story of Europe and which was inaugurated in 2017. It offers guided tours, workshops, and a transnational perspective on history. Then we have the Info Hub, which is a space for exhibitions, debates, and events, which is close to our premises. And then, of course, in the different capitals where we have already opened it, they can also enjoy the Europa experience, which are centers that give visitors the chance to step into MEP's shoes for a day through a role-play game simulating the legislative process. We have some of them already in Europe, not in all capitals yet, but they are, let's say, meant to allow the visitors to use multimedia tools to find out how the European Union works and how it affects our daily lives. And of course, then we have the Jean Monnet House, which is close to Paris, which is the house of Jean Monnet that the Parliament bought and restored, and this is also a museum that is possible to visit. Of course, who can come and visit us? Everybody, individuals, school groups, university students, civil society organization, and so on. Finally, concerning the interactive and digital engagement programs, I just want to mention that, of course, everything we offer is in 24 official languages, of course, because we work in 24 languages. And I will just mention the virtual role-play games, where students can experience the European Union decision-making from their classrooms. Together with their fellow members of the European Parliament, players will for about 60 minutes debate and negotiate and compromise and vote on legislative proposals. This is what we also can have in our parliamentarium, but this is also can be done in the different classrooms. And then we have the digital journey, which is a virtual tour, a virtual guide of the European Parliament and its museums. And the citizens can also jump into virtual reality and immerse themselves in the role of an MEP. Now, I gave you an overview of all our initiatives in terms of education on democracy, but I would like to conclude by stressing the needs for even closer cooperation among our respective parliaments. We, the European Parliament and the national parliaments, share the common interest in fostering civic engagement and safeguarding democracy. And I think we should collaborate more and ensure our respective services know each other better and have opportunities to exchange best practices and share information and identify common challenges and explore ways to support one another. So, as a first visible sign of collaboration, we could mutually link to each other's educational resources, for instance, to be discussed. At the end of the day, the goal is simple, is to connect citizens with democracy. And because, of course, an informed public is an empowered public, and because our democracy is only as strong as the knowledge of its people. So I thank you very much for your attention. I'm available to answer any questions you may have and to continue this fruitful debate through our formal and informal meetings and our bilateral exchanges. Thank you, Georg.
Thank you, Mr. Chiocchetti, for informing us the wide range variety of practice of the European Parliament. And I now give the floor to our next keynote speaker, Mr. Haradossi, Secretary General of the Parliament of Austria. The floor is yours, and I kindly ask you to come to the podium to deliver your speech, and you can use the pointer on the table to step your PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you very much, dear Chair. Dear colleagues, while you have an opportunity to take a short look on an overview of what I'm going to present shortly, I would like to take the opportunity to also thank György Schuch and his team for the hospitality we have seen and the perfect organization of yesterday's and today's meeting. And I think we all are looking very much forward to meeting again with our speakers in May here in Budapest. But now to the substance. The starting point of what I'm going to present is that we believe that alongside its traditional functions of legislation and control of government, a modern parliament should play a leading role in providing transparency regarding political processes and decisions. Informing the public about current day-to-day political events in parliament is a cornerstone of representative democracy. An essential prerequisite for being able to understand and evaluate these daily political events and discourses is, in turn, knowledge of the basic rules of parliamentary democracy in practice. Particularly in times in which countries across the world are facing crucial challenges, it is of utmost importance to promote the awareness for democratic processes and parliamentarism and to strengthening democratic institutions. It is crucial to raise the interest in political participation and civil society involvement. This, in our view, is the key to a vibrant parliamentary democracy and one of the core tasks of national parliaments. Our parliament, the Austrian parliament, took responsibility for providing opportunities to learn about the principles of democracy and parliamentarism, and all this trying to do it at the authentic place of legislation in the main building of our parliament. And we offer an opportunity to learn at the original location and with the involvement of members of parliament. We provide information and education as a basis for forming an opinion, making electoral decisions, and participating in political processes. The lowering of voting age in Austria from 18 to 16 years in 2007 was the starting point for the implementation of programs for children and young adults in our parliament. Today, we are offering a wide range of activities and programs to different age and target groups. And I will now present some of them. The Democracy Workshop Program offers a series of workshops on different topics at Parliament. It also includes discussions with members of Parliament and has been established as a successful program to strengthen democracy education also in other countries. Additionally, the Youth and Apprentices Parliament, which are role-play activities simulating the legislative process at Parliament, and also in this we are involving members of Parliament. We also do offer interactive guided tours through our relatively newly refurbished parliamentary building, not only for children but also for students and the general public. And I think that I would like to stress particularly that we use these guided tours not only to show the building, but also to tell in each and every of these guided tours something on actual political substance, and also contributing through these guided tours to our education program. And aside from these interactive programs, in our newly refurbished parliament, we have a new visitor center spanning over 105,000 square meters, where we present a wide range of historical and actual information on parliamentarism and democracy. Furthermore, for anyone who cannot travel to Parliament, we also have specific offers. The program Parliament Comes to You provides mobile workshops at schools and kindergartens everywhere through Austria. Another program we are calling Parliament on Tour is our traveling mini-museum with interactive media stations that tours through all our federal states. And finally, the Democracy Webstadt, as we call it, is our web portal for children and for young people, and also we are providing there valuable information for teachers. This wide range of activities enables us to reach as many people as possible based on their interests and possibilities. We have had, since the reopening of the Parliament 2 years ago, more than 1 million visitors, and we are thinking that this interest will continue for some time. And I think we believe this underlines the interest of the public to not only see the Parliament, see the building, have a look at the building, but also to learn more about parliamentarism and democracy. Ultimately, the goal is to promote the willingness to participate in democratic processes. And we have to provide opportunities to foster skills needed for active participation. The aim is to break down barriers and fears that prevent people from engaging with politics. The articulation of opinions is encouraged and thus a lively positive experience of democracy is made possible. A visit to our parliament should not only give visitors a better understanding of how parliamentary processes work, they should also experience how important democracy is for their everyday lives and how many opportunities each individual has to participate in this democracy. They should be made aware that it is the responsibility of every citizen to engage with this issue and make their contribution. I believe it is crucial to deepen the knowledge and to foster active participation and thus to enable and empower young people to actively engage in society and in politics. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Dossi, for your presentation, and especially that you underlined the final goals of these parliamentary education programs, what I wish to do. We have already registered 11 requests for the floor from the delegation before the conference, but you can submit further requests at the registration desk down here by filling out the request for the floor card. The available speaking time is 2.5 minutes, and I kindly ask you again to stick to this time limit. And I will give back the floor to our keynote speakers only the end, in order for them to react and reflect to what has been said. And now I give the floor to our first speaker from the list, who is Ms. Marie Hansen from the Danish Parliament. Yes, you can speak from your seat.
Yes, okay. So, yeah, thank you. First and foremost, I would like to join colleagues in thanking you for being very professional and very kind hosts for this meeting. It's a very nice experience. I asked for the floor for this topic because I think it's a most valuable one. Lots of what I've planned to say, our Austrian colleague already said, but I will try to make it in short. We also considered a very important thing to educate future organizations about democracy. Therefore, we have a wide range of educational offers, and they are very frequently used by schools. We aimed it at students in grades 8 to 10. The reason for this is that these are the final classes of primary school, so it is our last opportunity to reach an entire cohort with educational efforts. We also have several educational offers to students in gymnasiums. Our offers include a variety of formats, and I think, again, Austria and the European Parliament and you as Hungary has always mentioned most of the formats we present, but we have a virtual role play, we have school elections, we have role plays, we have youth parliament. We also provide films, courses, teaching material, but as far as possible, we try to give the students a first-hand analog impressions of the work in Parliament. And I can provide you with more specific information on the different performances if you need them afterwards. Our educational offers are very popular. We are being sold out for the season already, and I think one of the main reasons is that we take care that the offers fit into the teaching plans. All offers are free and voluntary. Our overall aim is to support the development of all students' political confidence and judgment, the ideal being that the voter of the future feel capable of participating actively, responsibly, and effectively in our democracy, expressing his or her personal opinions. And who knows, we might even produce a politician of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hansen. The next speaker is Ms. Silke Albin from the German Bundestag.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, a phrase we keep hearing these days is that our democracies currently face special challenges. The response of some seems to be to call tried and tested democratic procedures and processes into question. These crises, or the crisis of the 1970s, 80s, and 90s were weathered without putting democracy on trial. And it's important to remember this when thinking about democracy education by parliaments. A key factor to success was that political compromise was front and center. Citizens also recognized the value of compromise, negotiating solutions, and the importance of democratic procedures. Compromise is a constitutive part of discourse in parliamentary democracies. In this context, a common factual foundation plays an important role as the basis for a solution-oriented discourse. Democracy thrives on an exchange of arguments that are developed based on facts. If facts and opinions become blurred, if negotiating partners have different truths at their starting point, what can a compromise be based on? It is no coincidence that most of our parliaments offer research services to help members of parliament make decisions on a scientific basis. This is where we indeed are facing challenges currently. Social media acts as an accelerant for unsubstantiated positions which are sold as facts and spread, reaching a large audience. This is where civic education at parliaments should and has to come into play, especially now, to raise people's awareness of the importance of distinguishing between facts and opinions, to teach them the value of political compromise, to show that a discourse is only possible if you learn to accept that the other side's arguments could also be valid. At the German Bundestag, okay, I try to short, the German Bundestag, we have various educational programs that also address these premises, very similar to these presented by my colleagues from Hungary, Austria, and the European Parliament. And therefore, let me just highlight one aspect which is important for the German Bundestag in this discussion to the end, because we try to carry through an evaluation progress or process on our programs at the moment, because we try to reach as much young people with our instruments as possible. And I wonder which best practices you could propose today, present today to the German Bundestag for this kind of evaluation, because we would like to reach as many people as possible, and usually you reach just these young people, or in general civic people, which are already interested in politics, and we ask, or we wonder how we can use social media in this context. Thank you very much, and sorry, I apologize for the long speech.
Thank you very much, Ms. Albin. And our next speaker is Ingvar Mattsson from Sweden.
Thank you once again, and thank you for putting this very important topic on the agenda for today's meeting. It's not one of those tasks that we perform because of its constitutional status, but nevertheless, it's very important. And I realized that during my preparations, I have had the intention to mention very much of that has already been mentioned. I will not repeat that, because we are doing very much the same things that has been mentioned. And I think one of the benefits with our meetings and the meetings that our colleagues have in this European family is a benefit for developing many of our tasks. I realize that we have copied many things from other parliaments, and we do it successfully. However, I would like to mention one thing And that is, most of these activities are focused on the parliament, on the parliamentary premises, when we receive visitors, pupils, etc. But we do also try to reach out to the schools, and we do also have activities on, for instance, fairs. There are a book fair every year in Gothenburg in Sweden, where thousands and thousands of persons come because they want to know more about books. And there are, of course, relevant books of various topics. And we invite also members from Parliament to give speeches, etc., to have a platform during this fair and other fairs where people who not intentionally come because they are interested in politics, but when they pass our place in this fair, they stop, they talk with the politician, etc. We have also tried another form, and that was a musical. Actually, we wanted to mark that the 100-year anniversary of female suffrage, and asked artists to perform that, and of course it was televised. So we tried different forms, and now my time is out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ingvar. Our next speaker is Nicole Marquet from Belgium.
I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. Comme d'autres collègues l'ont déjà dit, le contexte géopolitique actuel montre qu'il ne faut jamais tenir la démocratie pour acquise, dans un contexte en constante évolution où les défis sociaux et politiques se complexifient et où la désinformation prend une ampleur inédite. Les parlements doivent ouvrir leurs portes aux citoyens afin de les informer de manière objective sur leur fonctionnement et sur l'importance du projet démocratique. La Chambre des représentants de Belgique a pris différentes initiatives dans ce cadre. La première concerne l'explication de notre système institutionnel qui est particulièrement complexe. Je pense que plusieurs personnes ici le savent. Et donc nous avons créé des fiches d'information structurées dans un langage simple qui est vraiment adapté aux plus jeunes afin d'expliquer la structure de nos institutions et leur fonctionnement. La Chambre publie aussi un magazine semestriel qu'elle envoie en fait aux écoles pour revenir sur les activités parlementaires marquantes des derniers mois. Notre dernier numéro a été consacré aux élections fédérales, régionales et européennes qui ont eu lieu en juin dernier. Et ces magazines rencontrent vraiment un grand succès. Nous avons régulièrement des demandes d'écoles qui demandent des exemplaires complémentaires. Chaque année, la Chambre accueille en moyenne 35 000 visiteurs. Et ce chiffre peut paraître assez réduit, mais en fait, quand on sait qu'on a la concurrence du Parlement européen, on a entendu le secrétaire général tout à l'heure, je pense que c'était un bel exploit, d'autant plus que nous sommes un pays avec 9 autres parlements, des entités régionales et communautaires, qui accueillent aussi à leur niveau pas mal de visiteurs. Donc il y a vraiment beaucoup de choses qui se font au niveau des parlements. Nous collaborons aussi avec des associations qui sont impliquées dans l'éducation à la citoyenneté pour dévoiler les coulisses de la décision politique. Nous offrons ainsi aux plus jeunes la possibilité de simuler des travaux parlementaires en séance plénière, en commission, et nous leur donnons, comme d'autres parlements, l'occasion de rencontrer des parlementaires et de discuter avec eux. Lors des dernières élections, on a également organisé sur plusieurs mois une série d'animations intitulées Citoyenneté et élections, où on a donné la possibilité à 1200 jeunes de 16 à 18 ans de simuler un programme politique, de le défendre et d'en discuter avec d'autres jeunes. Vu le succès de cette initiative, nous avons décidé de faire ça de manière récurrente chaque année. Je vais terminer, mais je répète donc que les parlements ont vraiment un rôle essentiel à jouer dans la lutte contre la désinformation et pour expliquer en fait à quel point le projet démocratique est légitime et doit être défendu. Merci.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Remco Nemelman, Honorable Vice President of the SGP and from the Senate of the Netherlands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you also for your kind hospitality and for the good organization today and yesterday. Dear colleagues, it's a great honor for me to represent the Senate of the Netherlands in the meeting today. And we have a session now on reflection on education, on democracy and citizen education programs in parliaments. Of course, a lot of already has been said, but nevertheless, I want to show you one certain issue in the Dutch programs. The Dutch government has made its goal that all Dutch students have visited the parliament before the age of 18. And to achieve this goal, the Parliament and the Ministry of Interior Affairs work together with an institution in the Netherlands called ProDemos, literally for the people. ProDemos has multiple projects and programs for primary and secondary schools that can use in their curriculum. And I would like to take this opportunity to highlight one program especially. It's an initiative called the Third Chamber, which is an educational project about the Dutch parliamentary system, aimed at young people at 10 and 11-year-olds. The name Third Chamber derives from the Senate in the Netherlands called the First Chamber and the House of Representatives being the Second Chamber. Hence, the Third Chamber is the home of our future parliamentarians. Apart from being schooled on democracy, the wonderful part of the project is the interactive element. The children learn to debate on issues that are important to them. They film their classroom debates, and every year 3 schools are invited to the annual final debate, which is held in our assembly hall in the Senate. Members from both chambers volunteer to coach the children debating proposals such as children are not allowed to demonstrate they belong in schools. That came from the actual discussion in society about children joining the school strikes for climate. The Third Chamber has proven to be very successful. In 2024, more than 228,000 students used the package. The method is mainly used by schools in the Netherlands, but also schools on the Dutch Caribbean islands and the Dutch schools in Brussels. The success of this program is partly attributable to the fact that the educational package is free for the teachers to order, and because therefore it's very successful. So I think I truly believe that by bringing this project to the children from the ages 8 till 11 and continue to the secondary education is of vital importance for the future of our democracies and of course the rule of law. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Geronimidou Tassoula Geronimidou. Sorry for I already begged your forgiveness yesterday that I won't be able to pronounce properly your name, and I do it again. Okay, your floor is yours.
I would like firstly to thank you for the excellent hospitality in this great capital and magnificent building. Thank you indeed. Dear colleagues, education on democracy and citizen education programs in parliaments are of course of paramount importance, as they offer a testament of the interactions that can be developed between parliaments and civil society. To this extent, the Cyprus House of Representatives hosts almost every day students from elementary and secondary schools, as well as university students. For university students, we offer also a 2-month session in summer, also called a stage, with lectures given from clerks and also from other officials, as well as attendance of meetings of plenary and committees sessions. As part of these visits, parliamentary staff explain at length the political role and responsibilities, as well as the organization and operation of our system, which is based on the strict separation of powers. The presentations take place in the plenary hall and are enriched with use of audiovisual and material and simulating plenary sessions. At the same time, informative handouts are given. In addition, many other institutions and groups, both from Cyprus and from abroad, often express interest in participating in educational visits and other informational events. The premises of the Cyprus Parliament are very small indeed, so we are currently seeking for a new building so as to establish a visitor center which will offer a holistic approach on education of all these groups. Another important development is recently we have established a foundation, a private legal entity for parliamentarism and participatory in democracy, which has also started to offer programs in collaboration with our house. Thank you for your attention.
Very much. Our next speaker is Ms. Secretaries from Romania.
Köszönöm a szót, elnök úr. A román szenátus főtitkár helyetteseként megtiszteltetés számomra, hogy bemutathatok egy innovatív és ígéretes projektet, amely tükrözi elkötelezettségünket az állampolgári ismeretek oktatása és a fiatalok demokratikus folyamatokba való bevonása iránt. Ennek neve Junior Szenátus. A Junior Szenátus 2022. június 1-én elindított online platform, egy romániai intézmény első, kizárólag gyerekeknek szóló weboldala, melynek fő célja a legfiatalabb polgárok tájékoztatása és oktatása a szenátus szerepéről és működéséről, a jogalkotási folyamatokról és a jogaikról. A Junior Szenátus program célkitűzései. Akadálymentes állampolgári nevelés. A platformon keresztül 7-14 éves gyerekek egyszerű és barátságos nyelven tanulhatnak arról, hogy mi a szenátus, hogyan születnek a törvények, és mi a parlament szerepe. Ez a megközelítés az állampolgári ismeretek oktatását absztrakt iskolai tantárgyból interaktív és lebilincselő folyamattá alakítja. A gyerekek bevonása. A Junior Szenátus ösztönzi a gyerekek aktív részvételét azáltal, hogy külön tereket biztosít, ahol kifejezhetik véleményüket, kérdéseket tehetnek fel, és akár saját definícióikat is megadhatják a Mit gondolnak a gyerekek szekcióban. Így a gyerekek a demokratikus párbeszéd aktív részévé válnak. A jogalkotási folyamat átláthatósága. Játékok, világos magyarázatok és a parlamenti képviselőkkel készített interjúk révén a gyerekek megértik, hogyan működnek az állami intézmények, és hogyan vonhatók be a jövőben az őket érintő döntéshozatali folyamatba. A platform hasznos eszköz a gyerekek számára az egész országban, beleértve azokat is, akik fizikailag nem látogathatják meg a szenátust. Online kapcsolatba léphetnek a szenátorokkal, és részt vehetnek virtuális találkozókon is. A szenátus létrehozott egy gyermekbaráti csoportot, amely rendszeresen konzultál a gyermekekkel a jogalkotási folyamat során, biztosítva, hogy hangjukat a döntéshozók meghallgassák és figyelembe is vegyék. A játékokon és az oktatási tevékenységeken keresztül a gyerekek szórakoztató és emlékezetes módon tanulnak jogaikról és a demokrácia működéséről. Összefoglalva, a Junior Szenátus nem csak oktatási platform, hanem hatékony eszköz a demokratikus értékek előmozdítására és a fiatalok közéletbe való bevonására. Köszönöm, hogy meghallgattak.
Köszönjük szépen. Our next speaker is Fabrizio Castaldi from Italy.
Dear colleagues, I would like to thank the keynote speakers for their contribution to such an important topic. In the last 25 years, the Italian Chamber of Deputies has opened its doors to citizens and students through several initiatives, following the inputs by the parliamentary bodies and the political groups. Indeed, we believe a closer relationship between Parliament and citizens is essential to make democracy stronger and healthier. All citizens can attend the sittings of the Houses of Parliament, as well as events, seminars, other initiatives that the Chamber and the MPs host in the Chamber's reception rooms. In addition, an open door day every first Sunday of the month offers visitors a guided tour of Palazzo Montecitorio. To give you an idea, all these initiatives, including guided visits for schools, attract about 300,000 visitors a year. Within this framework, we consider as a priority the initiatives targeted at students of different age groups, ranging from primary school to postgraduate. It's crucial for our democracy to have an engaged and proactive young generation, also taking into account the concern related to high percentage of young people who don't vote. In the last Italian political election in 2022, 42% of the 18 to 34 years old didn't vote. This percentage represents a warning about the growing distance between the institution and the young generation. Therefore, the Chamber has been organizing initiatives targeted at students for many years. First of all, we offer educational tours for 300-350 students per day from Monday to Friday. Our aim is to allow students to truly understand how the Chamber works and what the daily job of the MPs is. Secondly, we organize a training session and competition. Finally, I want to recall that we have a designated website to provide useful information for teachers and students wishing to participate in the competitions. Over the years, the website content has increased significantly. Today, this consists of a large section of podcasts, dossiers, and books, customized according to the age of students on different parliamentary topics. To give you some figures, since the beginning of the current legislative term in October 2022, more than 40,000 students from over 1,000 schools visited Palazzo Montecitorio. 62 meetings were organized, including study visits and training days, with the participation of over 2,000 students. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie, Fabrizio. Our next speaker is Vyacheslav Shtushny from Ukraine.
First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for the invitation to participate today in a meeting for Secretary Generals. Thank you, your team, and your personally, dear Secretary Generals, for organizing this meeting. The issue of education on democracy and citizens' education is extremely important for us. The Education Center of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine was founded in 2019 and did not stop during full-scale Russia invasion. During this time, nearly 400 events were held for 290,000 participants. For example, one of the online lessons dedicated to the second anniversary of the full-scale Russia invasion gathered 31 participants, and dedicated for Day of Europe is 50,000 of participants. Today, Education Center offers the following formats of work: interactive lessons for the visitors of the activities of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine and the basics of parliamentarism, development of interesting information and education materials, holding meetings and workshops with MPs of Ukraine, and organizing debates, speech, and discussion. During the wartime, it's more online. Our team also organized on-site parliamentary lessons in the regions of Ukraine, talks about important educational changes on social media, launched drone diplomacy, and recorded the first parliamentary podcast, and conducts the special courses. And also we never stop, and we have a plan. Today we are working very actively to establish the Center for Statehood of the Verkhovna Rada. It's like visitor centers, whose main goal is to support the openness of the Ukrainian parliament, create high-quality communication with citizens, especially with young people, raise public awareness of the activities of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, and build trust in the parliament as the sole legislative body of the Ukrainian state. The center will include the Museum of the History of Parliamentarism, the Museum of Official Gifts, the Parliamentary Library, a cinema hall, an exhibition space, the Ukrainian House, and much more, which will undoubtedly be highly appreciated by both Ukrainians and our foreign friends they visit within the framework of interparliamentary cooperation. And we signed a memorandum between Austrian Parliament and Parliament of Ukraine in July 2024 about intent of implementing democracy workshop program in Education Center of the Parliament of Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. Our next speaker is Georgi Makarashvili from Georgia.
I would like to start my word with the gratitude for the organizing the meeting and for your warm hospitality. Citizens' engagement in parliamentary activity is essential for the health of a democracy. We can agree it is important not just for the legitimacy of parliamentary activity, but also for ensuring that the democratic processes are inclusive, transparent, and responsive to the needs of the people. In the last few years, Georgian Parliament had a seminal task of institutional adaptation to the new constitutional provisions that envisaged the transition of the Georgian political system from the presidential to the parliamentary republican democracy. This was a daunting task because the parliament had become the central political institution in a newly democratized country. The parliament was able to deal with this task successfully. The challenge was managing the even increased volumes of citizens' direct engagement with the parliament. And I would like to share some practice which we have in the Parliament of Georgia. It's already well established. First, citizens have the opportunity to collect electronic signature for legislative initiatives. As technology continues to evolve, the ability to collect signature electronically will only become more integrated into the political landscape. Second, citizens, even one person, public unions and other legal entities are entitled to submit legislative proposals which enable citizens to contribute ideas and solutions to pressing social, economic, or political challenges. Third, a group of no fewer than 300 persons has a right to initiate petitions regarding the initiated problems and national social tasks. Moreover, citizens have the opportunity to attend public hearing of the draft amendment to the Constitution, as well as the committee and plenary hearing of the draft laws via the website and the special TV channel of the Parliament. The draft laws are published on the website of the Parliament as to receive public constitutions, and the committees of the Parliament have the obligation to consider the comments of the citizens and, if necessary, reflects on them in the report of the committee. The achievement of the Parliament of Georgia is adapting the Palace of the Parliament for persons with disabilities, and the new website of the Parliament is adapted to the needs of visually impaired persons. Lastly, I would like to emphasize the concept of the Citizens Engagement Center in the Parliament of Georgia. I'm finishing. That was introduced with the framework of the Open Parliament Action Plan, and this is the space where citizens can make use of all service based on one window principle. Ironically, the citizens' engagement with the Parliament is not always a constructive business, and the last few months the Parliament as an institution and a physical building become a target of assault by the groups. We see citizens' engagement in parliamentary activity as a tool to ensure effective functioning of democratic governance. We stand ready to learn more from the best practice of our partner countries and further share our own experience in this regard. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ms. Marina Dimovska, Secretary General, Parliament of North Macedonia.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, dear participants, it is a great honor for me to speak today on this topic. As a parliament, we have embarked this journey led by our mission to educate and empower young generation about fundamental principles that guide democratic institutions and the role of the parliament in particular as a central institution in the decision-making process. Through our Parliamentary Institute, we implement activities of several levels, starting with the primary and secondary school. Through our program, Democracy and Parliament, we introduce to them the core values of democracy, the competences of the Parliament, and the citizens' rights. These seminars are designed to foster a deep understanding of democratic governance and encourage them to the strong voice in the political process at an early age. Together with our Swiss partners, we also developed the initiative titled My Point of View for Secondary School Students. By simulation of the legislative process, students play their role as parliamentarians involved in drafting legal solutions which they present on simulated plenary session. The interactive exercise helps students understanding the legislative process while encouraging critical thinking, teamwork, and public speaking skills. Twice a year, we also organize the Children's Parliament, bringing together primary school students from across the country to participate in a simulated parliamentary session. This experience not only engages young people with the parliamentary process, but also empowers them to voice their opinions on matters that affected them and their communities. In celebration of the World Teachers' Day on October 5th, we conduct seminars and training sessions for teachers from the primary and secondary schools to encourage the teachers' understanding of parliamentary processes, civil education, and the importance of the fostering democratic values in the classroom. We also guided tours of the parliament for students and citizens. During those tours, we share the history of Macedonian parliamentarism, the structure of the political system, and the role of responsibilities of our parliament. Last year, we beat the record by having more than 10,000 visitors, having in mind that we are a state of around 2 million people. Maybe small state, but with big heart. All these educational activities plays a vital role in bringing citizens closer to their elected MPs. Thank you very much.
Very much. And our next speaker is Monsieur Eric Tavernier, Secretary General of the French Senate.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voulais vous présenter une initiative, peut-être. Alors effectivement, au Sénat français, nous avons le même type de programme que ceux dont nos collègues ont largement parlé. Et je me rends compte que nous sommes d'ailleurs plutôt en retard sur notamment les programmes scolaires. Et c'est très intéressant ce que j'ai entendu, puisque ça va me donner plein d'idées. Je voulais vous parler d'une initiative un petit peu particulière que nous avons eue au Sénat français et dont nous sommes assez contents. Il y avait depuis très longtemps un institut des hautes études de défense nationale en France qui permettait en fait à l'armée de recruter, d'aller chercher des chefs d'entreprise, des responsables associatifs pour les incorporer pendant une année dans l'armée et leur montrer comment ça fonctionnait. Nous nous sommes inspirés de ce système, donc de l'Institut des hautes études de défense nationale, pour créer un institut du Sénat où nous proposons pendant plusieurs mois, pas tout à fait un an, mais plusieurs mois, à des personnes venues d'un peu tous les secteurs de l'économie et du monde associatif de voir très concrètement comment fonctionne une assemblée parlementaire et de les incorporer dans notre fonctionnement. Cela concerne les milieux économiques, le secteur industriel, agricole, rural, le monde des médias, l'audiovisuel, la presse, le monde social, le monde syndical, associatif, le monde de l'éducation académique, intellectuelle, et puis la sphère publique avec les élus locaux, la fonction publique d'État, la fonction publique territoriale et les collaborateurs politiques. Donc pendant presque un an, nous les intégrons dans notre activité, nous leur montrons comment très concrètement la loi est adoptée, comment nous contrôlons l'activité du gouvernement. Nous les associons aussi aux échanges que nous avons avec les autres grands organes de l'État, le gouvernement, les ministères, le Conseil constitutionnel, le Conseil d'État, la Cour des comptes, par exemple. Et donc l'idée, c'est de leur faire très concrètement comprendre comment leurs sénateurs travaillent. Nous les amenons aussi à faire ce qu'on appelle des jeux de rôle, c'est-à-dire à eux-mêmes rentrer dans le jeu du vote de la loi et de l'expression d'opinion. Pour terminer juste sur une anecdote positive, donc nous avons derrière, l'idée c'est quand même d'avoir des relais d'opinion, c'est des personnes qui appartiennent quand même aux milieux dirigeants, patronaux, associatifs ou dans la fonction publique, qui relaient une image positive du Sénat. Et nous avons eu le plaisir d'avoir un de nos anciens membres de cet institut qui a été élu sénatrice aux dernières élections sénatoriales.
Merci beaucoup. And last but not least, Ms. Ursula Tavčar, Secretary General of the National Assembly of Slovenia. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Since I'm the last one in this topic, I will be very brief and short. I would like first to thank you, Georgie, and everyone here who was sharing the ideas today. I think we are all doing or trying to do more or less the same thing, with some more successfully, some of us are a bit lagging behind. But I think all of us, we came a long way for just having the visits of the building and seeing the plenary halls, because also visitors that are coming to our institution, to our parliaments, are more and more demanding. They want to get more and more information, and the information that we give them is very important, especially because of the social media, the topic that was already mentioned, and especially because of the fake news. And I think it doesn't matter how we call it, whether it's civic education, democratic participation, active citizenship. The goal of all of us is more or less the same, to teach and to educate. And maybe I would just like to stress one point, which for us was very successful, that as we all are, the primary focus, of course, is the young generation, those who are going to vote or who maybe are just starting to vote. But I must stress that we have a very good experience with senior citizens as well. We have a special group of senior citizens. At first, they were just coming to see the building, but now we offer a special program for them as well to be able to participate in workshops for how the legislation is drawn and this kind of things. And this became a great success because afterwards they bring their grandchildren or they tell their children to bring their grandchildren. So we are actually spreading the idea. But I really like some of the ideas that I heard today, especially from my French and Swedish colleague. This was something new. This is what we would like to focus, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ursula. And thank you very much for all of your contributions. And before I give back the floor to our keynote speakers, let me tell you one comment from my side. Hearing the communication, what is come to my mind that we should consider using the IPEX and the ECPRD platform to share our best practices concerning the education programs. And now I'm asking Mr. Chiocchetti, Alessandro, are you with us? Do you have any comments or reaction?
Yes, well, just a couple of remarks, if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for this very enlightening exchange of views, and especially to the Hungarian Parliament for giving us the space to inform each other about our educational programs. To answer the question of our colleague from the Bundestag on the best practices, first of all, I welcome very much this idea to use IPEX to share our common practices and to share with all the other colleagues. But I can only encourage parliaments to invest in programs like Back to School. Back to School, I did it myself. I went to my school, and they really can see that the institutions are not so far away, because even one of them could then go and work for a parliament, in this case for the European Parliament. But so Back to School, I think it works very well. And of course, we have to invest on virtual role plays, because nowadays everything is digital, and of course this cannot replace the visitors on site. They have to see and feel also the atmosphere of a parliament. I'm very sorry that I cannot be there in person, because indeed you have one of the most beautiful buildings of parliaments. So our colleague Harald Dossi from the Austrian Parliament expressed it very well. I think we need to get back the interest of our citizens into the democratic processes. This is part of the responsibility of our parliaments, but this does not only mean, in my way, that we have to explain the young citizens how democracy works to get them to vote. I think it goes beyond. We have to stimulate their active participation. I think it's fair to say that we see a little bit disaffection of young people for politics, and this is also the purpose of everything we do, in order to stimulate not only to incite them to go to vote, but also to incite them to participate actively. And then I would say another thing. Explain democracy is fine. Explain how the parliament works is also fine. But I think we see this huge development of social media, and we have the temptation, and I see it in many countries, of the direct democracy. Direct democracy is fine, but in times of disinformation can also be very dangerous. And that's why I think we had to explain why parliamentary democracy is what we need. The colleague of the French Senate said it, mentioned it. We also have the role not only to make laws, but also to control the executive. And I think this aspect has to be very clear in our communication to citizens. At European level, for sure. I mean, citizens need to know that there is a parliament who is there also to control the European Commission. But I guess it's the same for all your national parliaments. So I was very happy to hear this morning that all of us are putting an effort to elaborate programs, and this is very promising. And I think that at a time when our democracies face significant challenges, investing in these programs is more crucial than ever. And I would say really let's us maintain our efforts. And I look forward to continuing our cooperation on these key issues. And if we can be of any help, we will be happy to help and of course also to share what we do. And I already learned many ideas today, and I think the exchange between us is key. Thank you very much again, Mr. Secretary General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, for your remarks. And now I'm asking Mr. Dossi whether you would like to take the floor for a short reaction.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, from your seat.
I think I can be very short because in my view, the last hour fulfilled the function as Ingvar Madsen put it in his intervention, that the benefit of this round is to listen to each other, to inform each other, to share experiences and best practices. And I have been indeed listening very carefully to all the interventions which at least for me have been very interesting. I would only like to highlight 2 points. The first, I think Silke Albin has mentioned the need to evaluate existing programs. And I can very much support this and tell you that 18 years ago, we started just with the democracy workshop. And all the other elements in our program, we added step by step over the years. So at the moment, we are investing a sizable amount of public money into all these formats and programs. And of course, the situation, and I think we are not the only country in Europe with strict budget, force us to evaluate, to constantly evaluate our offers, and I think it's by the way good to have these ongoing evaluations. The second point I would like to mention is the issue of social media, which I think is a very important issue, and you can't avoid it. And we, in our parliament, we are trying to tackle this issue from 2 sides. The one is that we proactively use social media channels by the parliamentary administration to feed into these channels fact-based and equidistant information on parliamentary processes. So in order to give everybody in this field who is interested into such fact-based information, giving them the possibility to find it in social media. And the other aspect, and maybe the more important one, is that in our democracy workshops there is one format dealing with the consumption of media, and in these formats we put a great interest in the use of social media, how to critically make use of social media. I think at least that's the 2 possibilities we see to take care of this very important issue of social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, for your closing remarks. And I hereby declare our second session closed. And I would kindly remind you that the family photo will take place now. So I invite you all, my dear colleagues, to proceed together to the grand staircase by walking through the dome hall where the Holy Crown and the crown jewels are displayed. After the photo, you are all invited to have a coffee break on the corridors, and the next session will start at 11:15 in this very room. Dear colleagues, please take your seats because we are running out of time and we would like to continue our conference. But okay. Are we ready? Okay, dear colleagues, distinguished audience, I hereby open the third session on cooperation of EU parliaments with the parliaments of the candidate countries. During this session, we will have three presentations. At first, about the Hungarian practices from Peter Sárdi, Director for Foreign Relations in our office, who some of you, I'm sure, know since he has been in his position in the last 35 years. Then the topic will be discussed from one of the candidate states' point of view, since Mr. Smiljanic, Secretary General of National Assembly of Serbia, will share his thoughts about the topic. And at last, the program manager of a very important initiative of the EU, Mr. Jonathan Murphy, head of the Inter-Pares Partnership Program, will deliver his keynote speech. So I now give the floor first to Peter Sárdi. Mr. Director, please deliver your speech from the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Director, for the floor. Distinguished Secretaries General, dear colleagues and guests, may I begin with a personal memory. In this upper chamber hall, exactly 20 years ago, in February 2005, just 1 year after our accession, together with your predecessors, and most probably with some of you, we could achieve a historical result in our common work. Namely, after 30 years of Babylon challenges in the Speakers' Conference, we could find an appropriate solution to save money for our taxpayers. If I remember well, in 2004, in The Hague, the interpretation cost for the Dutch Parliament amounted 160,000 euros. After the reform which we achieved in Hungary in the Budapest Conference of EU Speakers in 2005, the language regime, the new one, resulted in saving minimum this sum of money for us and for the incoming organizing parliaments. I wish COSAC could follow our example. Sorry, Mr. Silva. And now let me turn to the specific content of this agenda. As the Director for Foreign Relations since '91, I had the privilege to be an active actor in the evolving interparliamentary cooperation from two perspectives. First, as the parliament of a candidate country, and after the accession of Hungary in 2004, as the office of the parliament of a member state. We know that the accession process requires a huge effort from parliaments of the candidate countries. The pressure and the excitement had always been with us before 2004. And I can tell you that we made the necessary changes in our structure in the office well on time. From a human resources point of view, the establishment of the EU department already in 1908, the increase of staff not only in the Foreign Relations Office, but also in the EU Committee Secretariat have been a great achievement. Furthermore, from procedural point of view, this meant that changes in the rules of procedure of the House, and thirdly, from legal point of view, the elaboration of the necessary legal provisions, for instance, about the cooperation between Parliament and government in EU decision-making, or the status law of the Hungarian members of European Parliament, just to mention a few. This is our know-how and our institutional memory of the accession processes. Ever since our accession, the Hungarian National Assembly considered it important to support the parliament of EU candidate countries through the instruments of the parliamentary diplomacy in the bumpy road of European integration. Allow me now, distinguished audience, to introduce our practice from two aspects: the bilateral cooperation agreement of országgyűlés with the parliaments of candidate countries, and the participation of our office in the parliamentary capacity building programs. These are all coordinated by the Directorate for Foreign Relations. With regard to the bilateral cooperation, according to our experience, institutionalizing the parliamentary diplomatic cooperation, signing of agreements happens when relations get more specific and involves concrete areas of exchange practices. The two pillars of bilateral parliamentary relations are the partnership framework agreements at political level and at administrative level. The Hungarian National Assembly has quite a few political bilateral agreements with partner parliaments on speakers level, mostly in Europe. For the time being, at administrative level, we have signed partnership framework agreements with 9 parliamentary offices, including also Asia and Latin America. In general, the main areas of interest are promotion of parliamentary democracy, transparency, and accountability. In case of candidate countries, the specific objective is to transfer the experience related to the integration into the European Union. Sharing experience on practice of parliamentary oversight over the executive bodies related to the transposition of the EU acquis into national legal systems is important. Usually, budgetary, IT and e-parliament, human resources, and operational issues of parliaments are also included in the agreements. An added value of these agreements is that they provide an opportunity for establishment of direct contacts between the departments of parliaments. And I am very glad to see some very familiar, friendly faces also here in this room. Mr. Rákóczi, for example. In terms of bilateral cooperation, please let me shed light on one of our parliament's direct political engagements for the countries of Western Balkans, the Conference of the Speakers of Parliaments of South-Eastern European countries. The political commitment of our parliament to the region is demonstrated by the fact that every 2 years, the Hungarian National Assembly organizes this speakers-level conference in Budapest on the current issues of EU enlargement. Since its creation in 2004, we have organized 11 conferences. The last meeting took place in November 2023. In previous years, taking advantage of the current political opportunities, the speakers of parliaments of the Visegrad Group, the V4 countries, have also been invited to this event. Jiří, are you here? No, he's not here. The outcome of this high-level conference is manifested in a closing statement, which is forwarded by our speaker to the leaders of the EU institutions. The next conference is expected to take place this autumn. The exact date will be set soon, and we look forward to welcoming the speakers of parliaments of South-Eastern region in Europe. Dear colleagues, and now let me turn to the second, wider and more comprehensive areas of multilateral cooperation and support to the parliaments of candidate countries, the involvement of the Hungarian parliament in capacity building programs. Altogether, we have participated in 24 capacity building programs since 2005. The main goal of these programs are the knowledge transfer and the exchange of experience and best practices with our partners. I can report you that the Hungarian National Assembly is among the first parliaments from all EU national parliaments in winning and implementing of EU twinning as assistance programs. Since the accession of Hungary to the EU, the Office of the Hungarian National Assembly has been transmitting its experiences gained during the accession process to the beneficiaries through EU or other international assistance programs. We have implemented 18 of such programs so far in the South-Eastern European countries, in the Eastern Partnership and Southern Neighborhood. Of course, our successful participation depended not only on our professional experts, but to a great extent on the close and friendly cooperation with many of your chambers. We are grateful for that. This involved an impressive number of 24 parliamentary chambers from all over the European Union, from Portugal to Denmark, from Croatia to France and Belgium, and also civil servants from the European Parliament. We are grateful and honored for this joint work so far. Forgive me to bore you with some statistics, but this wall of fame proves its importance. We implemented 14 EU twinning programs in the parliaments of Romania, Turkey, Moldova, 2 programs so far, Croatia, Kosovo, 3 programs, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, 3 programs, Tunisia and Morocco. 3 EU technical assistance programs in the Bulgarian parliament before its accession, and furthermore in the North Macedonian parliament, Moldovan parliament, and even 1 bilateral capacity building program in Parliament of Laos, which is unique and resulted in a book, How to Manage Parliament, by the head of EU Department of the Foreign Relations Directorate, Dr. Christian Kovács. We are also proud to be involved in the most recent twinning program, which officially started last week. From February 2025, the Office of the National Assembly participates in the implementation of the 3rd Moldovan Parliamentary Twinning Program led by the Hellenic Parliament. And with the participation of 2 chambers of the Romanian Parliament, the Austrian National Council, and the Italian Chamber of Deputies as junior partners. Together we will do whatever we can to support the Moldovan Parliament to its role in successful EU accession. Distinguished audience, but last but not least, let me highlight the Hungarian participation in the Inter-Pares program. This initiative has proved its validity with the success of several partnerships implemented all around the globe. In terms of the parliaments of candidate countries, the inter-pares type assistance may go hand in hand with other more resourceful EU support measures for parliaments, be it either twinning or technical assistance programs. I am convinced that the candidate country parliaments may use successfully the advantages of inter-pares program, such as flexibility, short procedures for implementation, Nevertheless, this cannot replace the more comprehensive, longer cooperation which is more the characteristics of twinning. Having said that, we are also happy to be actively involved in the inter-Pares partnerships. In the first phase of the program, the Hungarian Assembly participated in the parliamentary partnerships in Bhutan, Malaysia, Montenegro. Currently, we are involved in 3 partnerships with the Parliament of Uzbekistan, with Nepal, and as a candidate country with the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. I am sure that challenges of project implementation can be overcome together with other EU parliaments and with the support of the Inter-Pares managing team. I am sure that Mr. Jonathan Murphy, head of the Inter-Pares program, will provide more information in this respect. To sum up, the Hungarian National Assembly is ready to continue our support to candidate countries through various types of instruments of the parliamentary diplomacy, be on bilateral or multilateral basis, with your precious help. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation, and I give the floor our second keynote speaker, Mr. Srđan Smiljanić from Serbia. Mr. Secretary General, please come forward to the podium. And make your speech.
Distinguished Mr. Zok, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, allow me to greet you on behalf of the National Assembly and on my own behalf and say that it is my pleasure to have today opportunity to participate as a speaker in the meeting of the Secretary General of Parliaments in EU member states. First of all, I wish to thank the organizer of the meeting, the Hungarian Parliament, for the exceptionally well-organized event, and I will emphasize that 4 of us who came from the candidate countries is important to participate in all meetings that provide the opportunity to exchange experiences with the colleagues from the EU, as well as colleagues from the candidate countries, given EU accession is a strategic commitment for all of us. Cooperation between parliaments of EU member states and Parliament of candidate countries is an important aspect for EU association process. Cooperation supports the democratic process, institutional capacity building, as well as the harmonization of the legal system of candidate country with the EU acquis. This cooperation takes place through the various mechanisms. Those mechanisms include traditional parliamentary bilateral cooperation, parliamentary conferences, twinning programs, regional and EU parliamentary initiatives, as well as bilateral political and technical agreements. The National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia has a well-developed bilateral cooperation with parliaments of EU member states and candidate countries. This cooperation takes place both at the political level and the level of cooperation between parliament services. As an important form of parliamentary cooperation, I also wish to highlight parliamentary friendship groups. Parliamentary friendship groups with EU member states traditionally have a largest number of members and are the most active groups, and the parliamentary friendship groups with Germany, France, and the most with the members of with the groups with the EU member states. The Serbian parliament also have very well-developed cooperation with EU Parliament. The cooperation between the representatives of the National Assembly and the European Parliament was established in 2004 in the form of regular annual meetings of the Interparliamentary Dialogue. The cooperation of the two parliaments in this form lasted until the entry into force of the CAA, when the Stabilization and Association Parliamentary Committee was formed, which raised in this cooperation to higher institutional level. The National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia also intensively cooperates through the European Integration Department with the European Parliament's Director for the relations with national parliaments, whose remit includes, among other things, organizing seminars, conferences, and roundtables for MPs and staff of national parliaments of member states and candidate countries. Through its European Integrations Committee, the National Assembly participated in the activities of the Conference of the European Integration Affairs Committees of the states participating in the stabilization and association process of South-East Europe. This conference is to great relevance for the very development of the candidate countries' European integration process. In this regard, I wish to emphasize that in the first half of November last year, the 20th COSAP meeting was successfully held in the National Assembly of Serbia, as it resulted in the adoption on the joint declaration that had not to be passed for quite some time. The National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia uses the IPEX platform. The possibility of using this network for an online interparliamentary exchange for information has great importance for us institutionals, as well as it also open for EU candidate country parliaments. Being an EU candidate country that has been the negotiation process for some now makes the significance of this platform even clearer, as its database contained relevant legal and political acts important for EU integration process. Strong interparliamentary bonds strengthen a political dialogue between EU candidate countries and EU member states and exchange the credibility of candidate countries' EU integration process. EU member states parliaments may provide a significant support to candidate countries during their EU accession process, both with regard to their governments and at the EU level. Cooperation between candidate countries, parliaments, and member states. Parliaments provide candidate countries with more flexibility in the political and legal alignment with the EU by strengthening democratic institutions and promoting political and economical stability. This process benefits not only candidate country but also the EU itself. It greatly contributes to building up a more stable and integrated European continent. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Secretary General. And now I give the floor to our third keynote speaker, Mr. Jonathan Murphy, head of the program of Inter Pares, who will have a PowerPoint presentation. Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. And as other speakers, I would like to start by thanking the Hungarian National Assembly for wonderful organization of this event, continuing my experience, which has always been very, very positive, of working with the Hungarian National Assembly. I'm going to talk briefly about Inter Pares. I'll focus specifically on the work that we have done with you on two candidate countries, Montenegro and Ukraine, but also talk a bit broadly about Inter Pares. So about Inter Pares, the program is funded by the Directorate General of International Partnerships of the European Commission, and it's implemented by International IDEA, and I head the program management unit. It's based on a peer-to-peer model, leveraging expertise from EU member state parliaments and 23 EU member state parliaments, including many people that I know and have worked with here in this room, have been engaged with Inter Pares to date. The program is demand-driven, based on the priorities of partner parliaments, which are identified in a scoping mission once the parliament is selected. Just to talk about the demand for the program, since 2019 we've worked with 24 parliaments, or are working with, but more than 80 parliaments have applied to be part of Inter-Pares, so it's very popular. The budget is 10.5 million euros over 2 phases. The first phase was 2019 to 23. The current phase is 23 to 26. The key objectives and activities, I think, won't be any great surprise to you. So first of all, strengthening core parliamentary functions, representation, lawmaking, oversight, budgeting. Enhancing Parliament's capacities on global challenges, focusing on youth and women's participation. And we work, again, as many of you know, through various different modalities. And I repeat the comment of a Hungarian speaker that it's quite flexible. So peer-to-peer exchanges, technical assistance, training, and development of parliamentary tools. We support parliamentary research, digital transformation, and crisis governance. So you'll have the chance to read the presentation. It'll be distributed afterwards, but just a couple of headline results. So 1,934 participants from partner parliaments have been engaged in activities involving over 400 MPs and staff from European Union national parliaments. Here, I hope you'll be able to see this, but just gives you a sense of where we are at in phase 2. The 10 parliaments that we are working with and have worked with since 2023 are listed there. And to emphasize, 253 different engagements of European Union member state parliaments and the European Union Parliament driving action across all of our work. And just to list a few of the top ones, the French National Assembly involved in 31 activities, the Lithuanian Seimas in 19, the German Bundestag in 18, the Irish Houses of the Oirectus in 17. There are actually 3 tied for 17, so Ireland, the Danish Folketing, and the Czech Republic Chamber of Deputies. Hungarian National Assembly in 15 activities, and also the Parliament of Cyprus in 15 activities. Portuguese Assembly of the Republic in 13, the Austrian Parliament in 13, and the French Senate in 13. So, and many other parliaments that aren't listed that have been involved in a number of activities. So I'll just switch to the next area. I want to focus on partnerships with accession parliaments, and we have worked and are working with 2 parliaments, 2 accession parliaments, Montenegro and Ukraine. Just to say that there are certain limitations for us in working with accession parliaments, because one of our principles is that we don't work with parliaments that have existing substantial European Union bilateral support, such as twinning programs. And so a number of accession parliaments are in receipt of twinning programs, and because of our limited resources, we usually stand back from working in that situation. So in Montenegro, the partnership ran from February 21 to July 2023, aiming to enhance oversight and legal harmonization. We carried out 14 different activities, which included in-person workshops, also included virtual exchanges involving 8 EU national parliaments. And with all of our programs, the MPs and staff from European Union member state parliaments contributed their expertise and time without any charge, and Inter-Pares covered all out-of-pocket expenses and coordinated the partnership. So just to run quickly on the oversight priority, the Austrian National Council, the Czech Chamber, the French Senate, the Hellenic Parliament, Croatia and Hungary were involved in that priority. And on legal harmonization, Croatia, the Czech Chamber, Hungary, both chambers of the French Parliament, and the Italian Chamber. So in terms of results and impact, 146 participants were trained, including 28 MPs. Almost all staff reported knowledge improvement. Over half of staff indicated they had applied their new knowledge in their daily work. And there was a 93% satisfaction rate from both the EU participants and the Montenegrin participants. 3 recommendation reports were prepared on enhancing processes, procedures in the Montenegrin Parliament. So lessons learned from Montenegro, the peer-to-peer exchange was highly effective, very relevant for Montenegro as an EU candidate country. Political stability is crucial for success, and in a situation where there is less political stability, the importance of flexibility and adaptive implementation. Ukraine, and I should have said before talking about Montenegro, very pleased that the Secretary General of the Montenegrin Parliament, Mr. Klaric, is here, and also Mr. Stuchny, the Secretary General of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. So this partnership was launched in April 2023 to support the Verkhovna Rada in performing its constitutional roles during wartime, and to support the EU accession process. And by far the largest number of EU member state parliaments for any of our partnerships have participated or indicated their wish to participate, 19. The project focuses on 7 key areas, but we have agreed with the Verkhovna Rada to focus initially on EU integration and on strengthening the Verkhovna Rada's role in the budget process. And this is just a table. You might not be able to read it, but it shows all 7 priorities and how many different EU member state parliaments expressed an interest and are participating in the partnership. And on EU integration, I believe there are 12 parliaments, and on the budget process, 13 parliaments. So on strengthening the Verkhovna Rada in the budget process, in March 2024, we organized a peer-to-peer workshop in Prague, hosted by the Czech Chamber of Deputies, providing insights into parliamentary budgetary processes across Europe and 12 EU member state parliaments, as well as several Supreme Audit institutions exchanged with the Verkhovna Rada MPs and staff. There was a study mission to Berlin at around the same time, offering first-hand exposure to Bundestag budget practices. In May 2024, a workshop was organized in Brussels in collaboration with the European Parliament, and again, including several EU member state parliaments, training 10 Verkhovna Rada and Audit Chamber of Ukraine staff in fiscal policy oversight. In January 2025, and actually just last Friday, there was a mission of the Budget Committee MPs from the Verkhovna Rada and staff to the Austrian Parliament to address specific parliamentary budget office implementation questions. And we continue to work closely on this priority. There's a dynamic for change and implementation in the Verkhovna Rada to help establish a parliamentary budget office. And I expect we'll be back in touch with you asking for further support there. On EU accession, in June last year, we organized a 2-day workshop online engaging 200 VRU representatives on Ukraine's EU accession negotiations. And then that event, 12 EU national parliaments, 15 chambers, shared their direct experiences with EU accession. Coming up, we have in March workshop co-organized with the European Parliament for Ukrainian members of Parliament on effective communication of EU accession processes and opportunities. And in the second or third quarter of this year, we will be organizing an in-person workshop hosted by one EU national parliament, providing comparative examples of parliamentary committees' roles in EU integration. We have worked on some of the other priorities with Ukraine. February last year, supporting the German Bundestag in their organization of a peer-to-peer study visit for parliamentary administrators, looking at parliamentary oversight, committee work, and civic engagement. In November last year, we held an in-person event in Kiev on parliamentary foresight involving the Lithuanian Seimas, who were there present in person, the Danish Folketing, the French National Assembly, and the European Parliament. And there will be an internship of Verkhovna Rada foresight research staff at the Lithuanian Seimas. I believe that's planned for the second quarter this year. So some challenges. Montenegro, as I've already indicated, political instability affected implementation, but we were able, because of the strong commitment of the Secretariat, to transfer a lot of the activities that we had planned to carry out with both MPs and staff to focus specifically on staff. In Ukraine, of course, a significant issue and challenge, which of course is faced by our Ukrainian colleagues every single day. The war means that travel inwards and outwards to and from Ukraine is difficult. The war obviously also has an impact on the reform focus. State decision-making has been more centralized under a regime of martial law. The EU accession process is still under development, and the specific role of the Verkhovna Rada remains to be clarified. One thing that I should emphasize, and I think it will affect Ukraine perhaps more than other countries, but also other countries, change in US foreign aid policy and programs is likely to affect international support to parliamentary strengthening. There has been a very large US aid program supporting the Verkhovna Rada that is currently suspended along with all US foreign aid programs, and I think there's a substantial risk that there will not be further US aid funding to support the Verkhovna Rada. I'd like to briefly give some thanks to several of the parliaments here that have been particularly involved with us. As we've already heard, the Hungarian National Assembly, which was involved in phase one with Bhutan, is currently involved with Montenegro, Nepal, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. The National Assembly has been a key partner with the Uzbek Parliament on IT systems and financial oversight, supported the Parliament of Montenegro, as you've heard, on EU integration and legal harmonization, including hosting a study visit here in Budapest. And above all, I would like to say the Hungarian National Assembly is always engaged, always responds to our ad hoc requests, from sharing their PAL-Lex system to research methodologies, and really working hand in hand. I'd like to highlight the Austrian National Council, who have provided excellent support for Montenegro, for Ukraine and Zambia on oversight, legislative scrutiny, youth and education programs. And I should say that the Australian Parliamentary Budget Office is one of the most sought-after parliamentary budget office models amongst our partner parliaments. The Czech Chamber of Deputies has been engaged with partnerships with National Assembly of Malawi, Montenegro, Libya, and Ukraine. And the Czech Parliamentary Institute has been fantastic, sharing their knowledge and expertise on research methodologies, budget scrutiny, EU integration, and key communication and education programs across different partnerships. The French National Assembly and French Senate, I've already mentioned several times, they have continued to be on a day-to-day basis close partners of Inter-Pares. They were heavily engaged with Niger before the coup d'etat and are engaged with Côte d'Ivoire, Uzbekistan and Botswana, and will be working with Benin, a partnership that is just beginning. The German Bundestag and Bundesrat, I've already mentioned several times. The Bundesrat, in cooperation with the Bundestag, hosted our steering committee meeting last year, which was an extremely fruitful exchange of best practices on parliamentary strengthening. And one or both of the two chambers are supporting partnerships with Ukraine, Botswana, Côte d'Ivoire, and again, Benin as an upcoming partnership. I'd like to underline support from the Irish Houses of the Oireachtas, and particularly talk about an example which is probably the biggest single impact that we've had. Their support to the National Assembly of the Gambia resulted in the establishment of financial autonomy for the National Assembly. And the Houses of the Oireachtas also supported the National Assembly of the Gambia, introducing a code of conduct for members for the very, very first time. And again, the Irish Parliamentary Budget Office is also always happy to share their expertise, either ad hoc or as part of a dedicated program. And finally, the Lithuanian Seimas, which has been very engaged with Uzbekistan and Ukraine on foresight, research, and EU integration. And I would particularly like to shout out the role the Seimas has had in opening up groundbreaking cooperation with Uzbekistan. For the very first time, we have found the Uzbek parliament has been prepared to open their doors, has been prepared to exchange on a very open basis about their reform challenges and initiatives. And that is something I think is very new for Uzbekistan and wouldn't have been possible without all of the EU parliaments, but specifically the Lithuanian Seimas. I'd like to talk about two perhaps smaller parliaments. The Croatian parliament worked extensively with Montenegro, hosted a fellowship for a parliamentary staffer from the Parliament of Montenegro on EU acquis compliances. And just to say that fellowships were also hosted by the Italian Chamber of Deputies, the French National Assembly and the French Senate and the Czech Parliament. And I would like to mention Cyprus, which has gradually become more and more engaged with Inter-Pares through partnerships with Uzbekistan and Botswana, and we really appreciate that, given that it's a small parliament with relatively limited resources. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the detailed description of your activity, and thank you for the other two speakers for their valuable presentations. According to the preliminary registrations, there are 8 requests for the floor. Once again, I would like to underline that it is still possible to submit further requests at the registration desk down there. The speaking time is still 2.5 minutes. Participants are kindly asked to intervene from their allocated seat by standing up and by using the clip mic. And now I give the floor for the first speaker on our list, who is Peter Oskam from the Netherlands.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and also for the excellent organization and for putting this interesting theme on the agenda. We have to understand that the role of national parliaments in EU enlargement is crucial. And for the future, I would like to discuss how we can strengthen our cooperation. And my speaking note is not a regular note, but more an invitation or a challenge. In the past, the Dutch parliament, we call it Tweede Kamer, has always been very open to receiving delegations of members of parliament from the accession countries. Vice versa, our committees of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs have regularly visited accession country parliaments. And on an ad hoc basis, parliamentary staff of the Tweede Kamer have participated as experts in training sessions organized by other organizations in accession country parliaments, such as in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania and Serbia. But it is my wish and policy to become more active in the field of capacity building. And recently, in June 2024, the Tweede Kamer finished a twinning project for the Parliament of Georgia. And currently, the Tweede Kamer is supporting partner to the twinning project of the Parliament of Moldova. And this project is implemented by a consortium of parliaments under Greek leadership, with also Italy, Romania, Austria, and your country, Hungary. And let me say to my colleagues from those countries here present, the Dutch are willing to contribute and cooperate. And lastly, I can only agree with one of the conclusions in the study, Parliament in the EU enlargement process of the European Parliament AFID committee, published in last January, to effectively, it's a very difficult word, support parliaments in candidate countries. The European Parliament and national parliament could also enhance their coordination, cooperation and sharing best practices. And of course, I'm eager to learn from the capacity building experience of other parliaments. And this is exactly what we have to do and what we are doing today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Silke Albin from German Bundestag. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. It was English. I forgot my microphone. So, danke. Can you hear me now? No?
Not so loudly.
Now it
it's
works.
much better.
Okay. Thank you. Dear colleagues, the German Bundestag works with all the parliaments of EU accession candidates. Firstly, all 10 accession candidates participate in the Bundestag's International Parliamentary Scholarship, IPS, which you might know. And secondly, the parliaments work with the German Bundestag through the International Parliamentary Cooperation Programs. There can be no doubt that with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, cooperation between parliamentary administrations has become even more relevant. Mindful of the systemic competition we face with authoritarian regimes and the threats posed by disinformation, populism, and popularization, mutual and collegial support between parliaments is hugely important. In this context, the support of relevant and influential members of parliament is needed within the international parliamentary cooperation programs. I would just like to highlight 3 areas of engagement of the German Bundestag. First, the cooperations with the parliaments of Ukraine, Moldova, and North Macedonia. The work with the NDI in the scope of the initiative to strengthen the parliaments of the Western Balkans, and the female leadership training programs of the countries of the EU Eastern Partnership by the GIZ, the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit. As part of the NDI's initiative to strengthen the parliaments of the Western Balkans, members of parliament from North Macedonia and other Western Balkan states, including Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia, will visit the German Bundestag in April 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Alexander Kralic, Secretary General of Montenegro.
Well, my distinguished colleagues, my dear friends, firstly, let me thank our hosts and colleagues who are present today for the invitation to representatives of candidate countries. We are all gathered here to send a message from Budapest how friendship and strong cooperation may contribute to better understanding and development of all our institutions. As a young man, I would like to emphasize that for youth, we all may link 2 words, dreams and future. From the perspective of candidate countries, I would add to this that our European path is also covered by hope of many generations who are sharing the same dreams and values, looking forward to become an EU member once. I'm very proud that I could deliver the message of over 80% of Montenegrin citizens who are pro-European. Dear Secretary Generals, let me stress out that each of us are front runners of change, innovations, and exchange of good practice among our institutions. In our work, we are trying together to make things better, to contribute to fruitful and strong democracy. In Parliament of Montenegro, we implemented or are in phase of implementing more than 300 projects which made us leaders of parliaments in our region. For instance, we are the most open and the most transparent parliament among Western Balkans, and we are already follow EU standards when it comes to digitalization and sustainable work and practice. Talking about today's topic and education programs in parliaments, I am pleased to discuss with you that our administration participated in many fellowship programs in your parliaments, spreading the knowledge and getting valuable expertise and experience in different fields of parliamentary work. From the perspective of small parliaments, the exchange of knowledge and lessons learned are the great values and appreciation. As an added value of these education programs held in our parliaments, we strengthen cooperation among us, making our connections stronger and more efficient. Today, speaking to you about our education program is impossible without mentioning Austrian Parliament, who 12 years ago helped us to establish this wonderful and powerful project. Today, I started with a message about dreams, hope, and future, because together they shape the way we interact, build alliance and friendship, and create the world we wish to live in. Let me finish with the same. I hope that I will host you in Montenegro as 28th EU member state in 2028 on a similar conference. I dream to be with you in Podgorica to speak about values that can guide us towards a bright future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Talip Üzün, Secretary General of the Turkish Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, I am delighted to be with you today to discuss parliamentary cooperation between our institutions. At the beginning of my speech, I would like to thank the Hungarian National Assembly for hosting this meeting. I would also like to thank my dear colleague, Mr. György Sac. Dear colleagues, as you know, parliaments are not just legislative bodies. They are also the backbone of democratic governance, ensuring transparency and citizen participation in policy making. We shouldn't forget that parliamentary dialogue and interparliamentary cooperation have been instrumental in bringing peace and prosperity to Europe. Our parliamentarians are developing interparliamentary relations and interaction through specialized committees, friendship groups, bilateral and multilateral international organizations. For our part, as the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, we attach great importance to relevant platforms and channels, namely IPEX, COSAC, and Turkey EU Joint Parliamentary Committee. We can also contribute to this process by strengthening relations and cooperation between the administrative organization of parliaments in our respective mandates. In this context, IPEX has been playing an important role in interparliamentary communication and cooperation by facilitating the sharing of information and data. Besides that, through expert exchange programs and official visits by delegations from administrative organizations, we can observe examples of good practices and on-site and enhance our existing cooperation. In this context, we are working on establishing an exchange program for the members of the administrative bodies of the national parliaments. I would be very happy to receive your suggestion and cooperation on the project. Distinguished colleagues, as Turkey devotes itself to move forward in the membership process, Let us reaffirm our commitment to strong parliamentary institutions and cooperation between all legislative bodies. Our institutions and officials are keen for the development of constructive dialogue and mutual understanding in strengthening relations between Turkey and EU. Once again, I would like to confirm that as Turkish Parliament, we are open to consider all sorts of new cooperation and to improve all existing platforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Marina Dimovska, Secretary General of North Macedonia.
Thanks again, dear colleagues, dear participants. I would like to express my satisfaction for the possibility to speak on this important topic, having in mind that our country has been the first country in our region signing the stabilization and association agreement. Sorry?
His contact with the microphone, so would you mind?
It's okay now?
Hopefully, it's
yes.
better.
Thank you. Now my time.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to express my satisfaction for the possibility to speak on this important topic, having in mind that our country has been the first country in our region signing the Stabilization and Association Agreement in 2001, and a candidate country since 2005. In these 20 years, we have managed to develop fruitful cooperation with many parliaments from EU member states. I will shortly list the long-term project. With the parliaments of Hungary, Latvia, and experts from Slovenia under an IPA project in 2011, our parliament strengthened the staff capacities for the overall role of the parliament in the EU integration process. The Parliament of the Czech Republic and Slovakia in 2014 have assisted us in the establishment of professional and expert service for research and analysis of EU-related laws and issues at Open Parliament. For steering professionalism, work ethics, and integrity among the staff was accomplished under the project in 2016, supported by the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands in our country. Strengthening institution and communication of democratic values were the main objectives of the project in 2020, which our counterparts in Swedish Riksdag, besides the best practices shared between parliamentarians and staff on two parliaments, we managed to build a strong interpersonal relation that will always be there for us when we will have a need or opinion on issues at demand. Here I have to mention the assistance offered by the European Union, namely the experts from Croatia and Hungary, to improve the rules of procedures of our parliament, which later continued with the Jean Monnet dialogue of the European Parliament. With this process that has been completed in 2023, an agreement for new rules of procedures was reached and later voted in the Parliament. Today we work under these new rules to contribute to a greater efficiency in the legislative process. Currently, we are cooperating with the German Bundestag on independent security service for our Parliament, where German experts are helping us to define the legislative framework. We have also raised several topics for the future cooperation in the coming years. The Estonian Parliament is a partner in the area of digital transformation and ICT development. With the colleagues from France and Austria, in 2021, we have started a closer cooperation on the EU accession methodology and the fundamentals, and later integrated together with an expert from Croatia. All of present their variable knowledge and help our service to advance on these topics. Based on this expertise, we have managed to adopt a new code of ethics for our staff that aims to improve the image of our institution and strengthening the trust of the citizens. Also, our staff in the parliamentary TV channel were trained by the French Assembly channel on the topic, which they immediately implemented in our TV program. We plan to continue with the cooperation with our French colleagues on the topic to be defined in the upcoming months. We also have had fruitful short-term programs with other parliaments of the EU member states as well. With your support, we are assured that we'll reach this goal in the next few years from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Tasoula Geronimidou, Secretary General of Cyprus.
Yes, it was already mentioned that we are a very small parliament, and to this extent we express our thanks to Mr. Murphy for what he has already mentioned. Although small a parliament, we are very much in the process to be engaged more and more so as to offer assistance to those in need and so as to strengthen their democratic procedures. Special bond we have with Verkova Rada, with which we keep strong ties between the two speakers, are on constant communication. And the two secretaries, we have already signed an MOU, and to this extent, we were very willingful so as to offer technical assistance and via inter pares, as well as our expertise gained during our accession period to EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Monsieur Tavernier from France.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voulais remercier sincèrement Monsieur Murphy de ce qu'il a dit de la participation des assemblées françaises au programme Interpares, effectivement, qui est très important, et notamment avec l'Ukraine, qui est quand même le sujet qui me paraît le plus important dans le contexte particulier créé par la guerre menée par la Russie contre l'Ukraine. Je voulais dire que compléter quelques éléments. Ce que le Sénat français, dans quelle mesure le Sénat français essaie d'aider la Rada ukrainienne. Premièrement, afin de concrétiser la dynamique de coopération engagée au niveau politique par les présidents du Sénat français et de la Rada d'Ukraine, un protocole de coopération entre les deux administrations a été signé à Paris le 1er février 2023, et à ce titre, le Sénat s'est engagé à apporter un appui à la Rada ukrainienne dans différents domaines, comme la procédure législative ou les activités de contrôle. Mais surtout, le Sénat de la République française, le Bundesrat allemand et le Sénat polonais ont souhaité s'associer dans le cadre d'une initiative conjointe dans un format que nous connaissons bien entre nos trois assemblées qui s'appelle le Triangle de Weimar, afin de mettre en place un dispositif d'accueil de fonctionnaires de la Rada ukrainienne au sein de leurs chambres respectives. En effet, il existe entre nos trois chambres des échanges réguliers de fonctionnaires parlementaires et il a été proposé d'y associer la Rada ukrainienne. Nous allons recevoir collectivement à Varsovie, à Paris et à Berlin une troisième fonctionnaire ukrainienne dans quelques semaines. Enfin, représentant des collectivités territoriales selon la Constitution française, le Sénat apporte aussi tout son soutien au développement de la coopération entre les collectivités territoriales françaises et ukrainiennes face aux défis de la guerre. C'est ainsi qu'en juillet 2023, nous avons organisé une table ronde qui a permis à plusieurs maires ukrainiens de dialoguer avec leurs collègues et les sénateurs français sur leurs besoins de coopération, y compris pour la reconstruction. Voilà, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup. And last but of course not least, Despina Chatsivasiliou, Secretary General of the Council of Europe.
Thank you very much, Director General and long-standing friend, Director Peter Sardi, for this invitation. Do you hear me? Yes.
Not your mic, but another mic you're using. Okay.
Thank you very much, Director General and long-standing friend, Director Peter Sardi, for the invitation. It's my special pleasure to close this debate, which is very close to my heart. Supporting the European perspective of Western Balkans has been a priority for our Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe since my election as its Secretary General in January 2021. We have tried to help the process with debates introduced by former Prime Minister George Papandreou in 2021, in 2022, addresses by leaders of the region. We had heads of government and ministers from Albania, Montenegro, North Macedonia, cooperation activities in Belgrade, in Skopje, in Tirana, and also a very important meeting we held in this very room in November 21 with the EU Enlargement Commissioner at that time, Mr. Valeri. Now, only 2 weeks ago, our Parliamentary Assembly adopted a text, a report by Ms. Dora Bakoyannis on the need for a renewed rules-based international order, and called again the EU to accelerate its enlargement process. For us, supporting the European perspective of candidate states making use of the tools and standards of the Council of Europe is a priority. We have also been supporting the accession of Ukraine and Moldova. We have developed cooperation projects with Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia, also in the field of elections. And last but not least, we would like to develop further cooperation with the European Parliament, including with Inter Pares, and we note with interest that an EU study only published last month called for an increased coordination role by the European Parliament, mentioning initiatives like Inter Pares. Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope it won't be the last time.
Thank you, Secretary General. Thank you all very much for your contributions. And since there were no questions or remarks concerning the presentation, but I'm asking whether any of our speakers would like to react or take the floor for reaction. Jonathan, please, from your seat.
Okay. Okay, it's come through now. First of all, I wanted to mention a couple of parliaments that weren't in the address. The first one was the Cortes of Spain, which was very closely involved in phase 1 of Inter Pares, working particularly with parliaments in Latin America, and the two chambers of the Parliament of Belgium, which is increasingly engaged, and we look forward to two intensive activities in the next couple of months there. And to the Swedish Riksdag, which provided a senior staff person for 6 months to Inter Pares. So thanks to them, and thanks to anybody else that has not been mentioned. Just on the question of complementarity with twinning programs, we definitely see there is complementarity between the type of support that is provided through Inter Pares, which, as you know, is light touch, is short term, and by all means needs to lead into intensive cooperation through twinning and through other support modalities. But I did want to come back to a point I made towards the end of the presentation, which is that I think there is an issue of resources in terms of supporting parliamentary development, parliamentary strengthening, both of accession country parliaments, but in general. As you know, the resources that are available for supporting strengthening of the executive in the EU accession process far outweighs that available to parliaments, and there is a need to ensure a balance. And of course, some of that needs to be ensured through national parliaments, the members of parliament of national parliaments, insisting that parliamentary strengthening be an important part of the politics of accession and the politics of international development. Again, to emphasize that I think we are going to see a bit of a crunch in that area, particularly in a number of the accession countries, because of the possibility or maybe even the probability of the complete withdrawal of democracy support by US aid. And that is going to be a challenge, I think, for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Dear colleagues, now I consider the third session as concluded. And now let us turn to our next session on information exchange between parliaments, in which we will have the opportunity to take stock on the proceedings regarding IPEX in the last year. IPEX is an irreplaceable and underestimated tool in the hand of parliaments. Therefore, it is essential that the platform continues to develop, is up to date, duly promoted, and the content uploaded there is accurate. I can only encourage our administrations to make the best use of this valuable tool and nurture it with great endearment. The Spanish Parliament has assumed the chairmanship of IPEX on 23rd of April last year, with the task of implementing the IPEX work program for 2024-2026. Let me congratulate to our Spanish colleagues for their excellent work and professionalism, which enabled to start of a dynamic implementation period. The incoming Hungarian chairmanship will endeavor to continue on that path. I'm inviting now the co-chairs of IPEX, Mr. Fernando Galindo, Secretary General of the Spanish Congress of Deputies, and Ms. Sara Sierra, Secretary General of the Spanish Senate, to give us a short summary on the Spanish chairmanship of IPEX. I kindly ask Mr. Galindo to come to the podium. The floor is yours, Mr. Secretary General.
Thank you, Mr. Director General, for your kind welcome in the Hungarian Parliament, for a perfect organization of this meeting, and for receiving us in this iconic symbol of history of Hungary and a real jewel of architecture which many of us envy profoundly. The meeting of this meeting of Secretaries General today marks the beginning of the last phase of the Spanish IPEX chairmanship, which began back on May 2024 after the EU Speakers Conference in Palma de Mallorca, and will end after the EU Speakers Conference that we will have held in Budapest on May. The last board meeting under the Spanish IPEX chairmanship was convened on the 23rd of January, and it adopted the documents that we will approve today, the IPEX conclusions and the IPEX annual report. I would like to seize this occasion to, once more, thank the European Parliament colleagues for their essential work and support of IPEX, as well as the Belgian Senate for its willingness to formally hire the IPEX information officer. Our gratitude extends also to the Italian Parliament for its generous offer to host the next IPEX Users Conference in Rome on March 28th. I would like also to mention those chambers that, on a voluntary basis, have decided to join the IPEX board on the next chairmanship on the 2025-2026. Thank you very much for your proactive role, because it is precisely the joint effort of all our chambers of parliaments that what allows IPEX to continue improving and becoming an irreplaceable tool for European interparliamentary cooperation. On behalf of both chambers of the Cortes Generales, we did our best to continue the work of the previous Czech chairmanship of IPEX and to pave the way for the upcoming Hungarian chairmanship 2025-2026. In doing so, we bear in mind that IPEX is meant to be not just a digital system, a one-stop shop, as it is referred to, but most of all, a network of people, which represents the IPEX soul and allow it to be the important forum for sharing information and best practice that it currently is. Under the Spanish chairmanship, we have held three kind of meetings, 3 IPEX board meetings on October and on January 2025, 2 by video conference and 1 as an in-person meeting in Brussels. The annual IPEX correspondence meeting on the 7th and 8th of November of last year in Madrid, and working group meetings held as video conferences and in-person meetings. I will not extend myself on all the work done by the different IPEX formations during the Spanish chairmanship, as it would demand a very long intervention, but let me just highlight the active participation of many of your parliaments, both in the working groups and on the board meetings, as well as the very numerous attendance of the national correspondence meeting that took place in Madrid. Many new ideas on the best ways to enhance the implementation of the rolling work program for the next 2 years have been shared along this year, and the work done by the 4 current working groups has allowed IPEX to advance towards a swift and smooth development of the further strategic position of IPEX. I would like to mention and thank the work done by these 4 working groups. The first one, update of the IPEX version 3 system. The second one, content and IPEX network. The third one, training. And the fourth one, promotion and social media. A special mention is deserved by the chairs for the additional work that position has implied. I would like to conclude wishing all success to the Hungarian Parliament in their upcoming IPEX chairmanships, which we start here in Budapest in May. May your Parliament, with the support of all parliaments and other institutions contributing to the IPEX network, continue and enhance the cooperation that keeps IPEX alive. Thank you very much.
And now, Ms. Sierra, Secretary General of the Spanish Senate, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and the rest of Hungarian colleagues for this perfect organization in this amazing and impressive place. Distinguished colleagues, it's a true honor to address this esteemed Forum of Secretaries General, whose dedication and expertise shape the institutions that are fundamental to our societies. We are here today not only as representatives of our respective roles, but as partners in a shared commitment to work together towards solutions that will have a lasting impact. With this in mind, allow me to introduce that we are gathering in this session to delve into the pivotal theme of information exchange between parliaments. And it is essential to recognize the transformative role that the Interparliamentary EU Information Exchange Platform, known as IPEX, plays in our collaborative efforts. Established to facilitate the seamless electronic exchange of EU-related information among the national parliaments and the European Parliament, IPEX has evolved into an indispensable tool for interparliamentary cooperation. It serves as a comprehensive repository housing draft legislative proposals, consultation documents, and pertinent parliamentary materials, thereby fostering transparency and informed decision-making across member states. In recent years, IPEX has undergone significant enhancements, notably with the launch of IPEX version 3. This latest iteration boasts a redesigned interface, an improved structure of the legislative database, and a suite of new tools, all aimed at making the platform more intuitive and efficient for users. These advancements underscore our collective commitment to leveraging technology and strengthening interparliamentary dialogue and oversight on EU actions. Moreover, IPEX now hosts the websites of the EU Speakers Conference and other interparliamentary conferences, including COSAC, further solidifying its position as the one-stop shop for information on interparliamentary activities within the EU. As we embark on this new period under the presidency of Hungary, let us explore how we can further harness platforms like IPEX to enhance our information exchange, promote best practices, and ultimately strengthen the democratic processes within our Union. From the Spanish Senate side, our newly appointed IPEX correspondent will be informed of any technical suggestions arising that could be incorporated into the IPEX platform to improve its effectiveness as a reliable tool for information exchange. And as you know, as a contribution to the Democracy Support Network, the Spanish Senate, which has held the presidency of the IFLA-PARL section on the International Federation of Library Associations, through its Director of Documentation, is committed to collaborating with this section, IFLA-PARL, composed of parliamentary librarians and legal advisors, to ensure that their stimulating new comparative law database can be migrated into the IPEX platform, entering into an agreement. This initiative is expected to attract new groups of users or additional networking activities. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. I thank the IPEX co-chairs very much for their remarks. The last IPEX board meeting held on 23rd of January has adopted the IPEX conclusions and the IPEX annual report for 2024, which are submitted to the Secretaries General for our approval. The latest written report of the IPEX Information Officer is also on our desk for approval. These documents were sent to all delegations ahead of the meeting. Before adopting them, now I open the floor. But according to the preliminary registration, there is only one request for the floor. So, Fabrizio, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, I would like to thank our Spanish colleagues for the significant results achieved by the IPEX board under their chairmanship. The Chamber of Deputies confirms that it intends to contribute to the further development of IPEX, as we have done since the origins. Indeed, the IPEX is the result of an initiative of the Conference of Speakers of the Parliaments of the European Union held in Rome in 2000. I therefore wish to express my appreciation for the commitment found in our conclusion on IPEX, to make the platform increasingly a one-stop shop for the interparliamentary cooperation and for the exchange of information on the EU activities of each parliament. Against this background, as you know, the Chamber of Deputies, jointly with the Senate, will host the next edition of the IPEX Users Conference on 28 March. A draft agenda was given to the members of the IPEX board. A maximum of 4 officials for national parliament, in principle 2 for each chamber in the case of bicameral parliaments, will be invited to attend. After the welcome addresses from the Secretary General of the Italian Senate and myself, the conference will host 2 different workshops focusing on how IPEX supported the main developments in the role of parliaments at the EU level after the Lisbon Treaty. The first workshop, hosted by the Chamber of Deputies, will deal with the way national parliaments have exercised their EU-related functions, such as the general scrutiny on their governments, the political dialogue, and the subsidiarity check. The second workshop, hosted by the Senate, will focus on the developments in the EU interparliamentary cooperation. On the one hand, the establishment of new conferences, and the other, the creation of networks among the administrations of our parliaments in specific fields. The main findings and the proposal from the 2 workshops will be debated in the final session hosted by the Chamber of Deputies. We are confident that the participants will provide suggestions on how to improve and enhance the role of IPEX in such fields. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. Thank you very much for your remarks. If there is no any speaker, I conclude the debate now. And if there are no objections, I declare all the 3 IPEX-related documents adopted. And now allow me to inform you about the preparations of our chairmanship, which we have already been started. The Hungarian National Assembly will take over the chairmanship of IPEX for the period of 25-26 in May this year. You may recall that a call of interest was launched in December last year to the national parliaments to express interest in being members of the IPEX board for the period of 25-26. As an answer to this call, we have received 22 letters of intent. The participating parliaments and chambers are listed the IPEX conclusions. I wish to thank all those colleagues for their dedication. Let me inform you about the preliminary dates of the 3 conferences we will organize during our IPEX chairmanship. At the end of this June, we would hold an in-person board meeting and an IPEX correspondence conference together, given the overlap between the participants. We also, in consultation with the European Parliament and the incoming Danish presidency at staff level, to set the dates for other 2 IPEX board meetings. In autumn, the European Parliament would host the board meeting in person, according to the current practice. And in early next January, we plan to have an online board meeting before the meeting of Secretaries General in Copenhagen. Further information and draft agendas will follow in due course. Dear colleagues, in this very last agenda item, we have 3 requests to speak. And I kindly ask our speakers to respect 3 minutes speaking time from your seat. Firstly, the permanent member of the COSAC Secretariat, Mr. Jakob Sjöwall, the Swedish Parliament, asked the floor. The permanent member of the COSAC Secretariat is also a contributing member to the IPEX board and to IPEX, since IPEX hosts all the documents related to COSAC. The Hungarian National Assembly is convinced that finding synergies between interparliamentary bodies can only benefit and enrich us all. This is why we agreed with Mr. Sjöwall to present the first annual report prepared by his initiative in this audience. So, Mr. Stuyvel, the floor is yours from your seat.
Thank you, Secretary General Schuch. Honorable Secretary Generals, I will be brief and I will not repeat what's written in the annual report, which can be found on IPEX and which details a little bit more about the work of the Secretariat on a more technical level, perhaps. But I thought I'd take this opportunity a little bit in the same vein as we are informed about the activities of IPEX during these meetings it's a little bit a test balloon to also briefly inform you about the activities of COSAC during last year. I am the permanent member of the Secretariat. The Secretariat, in addition, consists of one staff member per chamber, per Troika Parliament, so 6 to 7 people, and my job is to coordinate the work of the Secretariat. Very briefly put, I can report to you that COSAC conducted its business during the last year in accordance with the rules of procedure. During the Belgian presidency of the first half of last year, we had the chairperson's meeting in Namur and the plenary meeting in the premises of the European Parliament in Brussels. And during the Hungarian presidency, of course, we were hosted in this remarkable room. And the topics for discussion during these 4 meetings, I would say, were to a large extent informed by the change of legislative term and the European elections, which took place last year, and shaped very much also by the shifting geopolitical landscape, notably the war against Ukraine. So, for example, enlargement of the EU was a topic discussed during 2 of the 4 meetings, and security and open strategic autonomy were also items for political discussion. And during these meetings, the members of the EU Affairs committees of the national parliaments and the European Parliament had the opportunity to exchange views with ministers from both the Belgian government and the Hungarian government, as well as with commissioners and high-ranking experts. Apart from this political dimension, let's say so, of the debates in COSAC, there's also, of course, been an exchange of best practices carried out mainly through the biannual reports. And the topics of the biannual reports during last year followed, as is also intended by the rules of procedure, quite closely the topics discussed during the plenary meetings. I will not go into detail there. I can just say that these are perhaps of interest to the Secretary Generals and the administrations because they focus a little bit more on the practices of the parliaments. Lastly, I will just take last 5 seconds to inform you that there is now this annual report of the COSAC Secretariat published on IPEX, and that I've also taken some time during the last year to detail a guide for the COSAC Secretariat and for incoming presidencies, a little bit more focusing on hands-on how and what to do with the COSAC preparations for the presidencies. And this is also available and for you if you're interested. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stuyvel, for your briefing, and I would also like to applaud your excellent work and assistance during the Hungarian presidency of COSAC. Second speaker in this session, in line with the tradition of the Secretaries General events, please allow me to invite my Polish colleague, Mr. Michał Deskur, the Secretary General of the Polish Sejm, to inform us briefly on the parliamentary dimension of the Polish presidency.
Chers collègues, je souhaiterais présenter les priorités de la présidence polonaise. Il est difficile de le faire pendant 2 minutes, 3 minutes, donc je compte sur la générosité de Monsieur le Président. Donc tout d'abord, je tiens à vous remercier pour votre hospitalité et l'excellente organisation de l'ensemble de l'événement. Depuis le mois de janvier, la Pologne a pris la présidence du Conseil de l'Union européenne. Notre présidence intervient à un moment difficile. Les États membres sont gravement touchés par l'agression militaire de la Russie contre l'Ukraine. Renforcer la sécurité et le potentiel de défense de l'Europe est devenu une nécessité. Les Européens doivent aussi faire face à de nouveaux défis tels que la transition énergétique et le déclin de la compétitivité. Les citoyens des États membres attendent de leurs leaders des réponses simples et efficaces à leurs craintes et problèmes quotidiens tels que la sécurité, l'inflation et les migrations. L'Union européenne et chaque État membre doivent offrir à leurs citoyens la prospérité, les perspectives de développement et surtout un sentiment de sécurité dans tous les domaines. La présidence polonaise soutiendra les actions visant à renforcer la sécurité européenne dans toutes les dimensions extérieures, intérieures, économiques, énergétiques, alimentaires, sanitaires et cybersécurité. Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, notre présidence intervient à un moment particulier. Elle ouvre un nouveau cycle institutionnel pour l'Union européenne. Après les élections européennes en juin et la formation de la Commission européenne en juin, c'est une grande opportunité pour nous. La présidence polonaise au Conseil de l'Union européenne a également une dimension parlementaire. L'Assemblée nationale et le Sénat polonais organisent de nombreuses conférences, débats et discussions à Varsovie. La semaine prochaine, nous co-organisons avec le Parlement européen des réunions dans le cadre de la semaine parlementaire à Bruxelles. Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, l'année 2025 est une période de la coopération étroite au niveau européen. Je voudrais remercier le secrétaire général du Parlement européen qui a organisé en novembre dernier une réunion informelle des secrétaires généraux des parlements nationaux. Avec le secrétaire général du Parlement européen, nous souhaitons poursuivre ce dialogue entamé à Bruxelles en novembre. Nous souhaitons poursuivre les réunions sur les questions de sécurité, d'intelligence artificielle sous la forme des réunions informelles des secrétaires généraux. Nous pensons qu'il serait possible d'organiser une telle réunion informelle à Varsovie en juin 2025 et de la faire précéder des rencontres de groupes de travail afin de présenter en juin les premières conclusions. Merci encore une fois de votre invitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Descour, for sharing us your concern of the upcoming interparliamentary conferences and your plans, or the plans of the Polish presidency. We all wish you a successful presidency. Our next speaker, our Danish colleague, Ms. Marie Hansen. Would you like to brief us on your plans regarding to the upcoming EU presidency in the second semester? The floor is yours, Ms. Hansen.
Yes, and first and foremost, I would like once again to thank you, Mr. Suk, and your staff for hosting this excellent meeting, and especially thank you for the very many interesting discussions we've had today. I will inform you briefly about the meetings between Secretary Generals and speakers in the spring of 26. Of course, I would like to mention we now look forward to the conference of speakers of national parliaments here in Budapest. And I know that my speaker, the Danish Folketing, looks very much forward to meet his colleagues and have discussions here in Budapest. We also look very much forward to welcome you all to Denmark next year. We plan to provide you with information on venue and agenda in due time, but I would already now like to mention the dates. We are planning to have a meeting between Secretary Generals 1st and 2nd of February 26, And we have two alternative dates for the speakers. The first one is 3rd to 5th of May, and the second one is 10th to 12th of May, and we'll be back as soon as possible to give you exact dates. As I said, we will be back as regards the agenda, but I would already now like to mention that my speaker, and me as well, we are focused on making the meeting as informal as possible along the lines that my Swedish colleagues mentioned, thereby providing speakers and us with the opportunity to exchange information and reflections on a more informal basis. For example, my speaker plans to have a roundtable with speakers only, perhaps speakers plus one. All of this we will come back with a lot more, and we look forward to welcome you in Denmark next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary General, for your briefing. And finally, our special guest, Ms. Despina Chatsivasiliou, would like to take the floor.
Thank you, Director General. It's only to give you rendezvous in Strasbourg, 2021 March already, for our European Conference of Presidents of Parliament. It will be our pleasure with the President, Theodoros Rousopoulos, to welcome you all. And again, thank you for this opportunity of being with you today.
Thank you. So if there are no further remarks, I propose to close this session, and I will proceed to the closing of our conference. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, thank you for accepting my invitation and for your attendance at this meeting. Our discussion have confirmed my conviction that our meetings not only give us opportunities to share difficulties, challenges, new ideas, best practices, but give us the opportunity to learn from each other and introduce these best practices in our parliaments. As Secretaries General and senior public servants, we are not policymakers, but we are the ones who ensure that policies are implemented effectively, fairly, and with integrity. We are the custodians of the process, the facilitator of dialogue, and the guardians of the machinery that keeps our institutions functioning smoothly. Our role may often be behind the scenes, but it's no less essential to the stability and progress of our shared European project. As we return to our respective offices, let us carry with us the insights we have gained, the professional connection we have strengthened, and the shared sense of purpose that unites us across borders. The success of European cooperation is not just a matter of high-level agreements, but it depends on the steady, diligent work that each of you contributes every day. Last but not least, I would like to thank our interpreters up there on the gallery and the parliamentary administrations for their valuable work and tireless efforts in preparing and managing this event. I do hope every participant has found our meeting useful and memorable, and I also hope that some of you will return to Budapest as members of the delegation of your speaker. Now, I invite you all to a buffet lunch in the Hunters and the Goblin halls. These are two elaborate halls, are accessible also through the Dome Hall to the right-hand side. And after the lunch, from approximately 2:15, there will be a guided tours in the building and the museum in English and French. The tour guides will be awaiting for you in front of the venue of the lunch. I wish you all a safe journey back home and continued success in the important work that lies ahead of us. Thank you very much for your attention.